Welcome, everyone, to the Weird Rap Discussion Gang. We are discussing Old Dirty Bastard's classic debut album, Return to the 36 Chambers, the Dirty Version. And we got a special guest with us this week. This is Skiz Fernando, a.k.a. Spectre of Word Sound Recordings, who is also the author of the forthcoming book, The Wu-Tang. What's the name of the book called, Skiz?
It's called From the Streets of Shaolin, the Wu-Tang Saga.
Yes, and you have a lot of like firsthand experience interviewing and hanging out with the Wu-Tang themselves, so that's why I wanted to invite you.
Well, I'm just like a fan like all of us here. I just had the special privilege of hanging out with the Wu for many years, so.
Yeah. We got extra special guest Buddha Monk, who was in the studio for almost the entire process of recording and producing the album. He was ODB's childhood friend and right-hand man throughout his career. Author of the book, just finished reading the Dirty Version. Excellent read.
Oh, thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you for being here. It's an honor. And then who else we got? We got Chief and the Doomsday Device out in Austin. You got Zachary Ostrowski, aka Beverly Fresh, in Chicago. And we got Tokyo Cigar out in Maryland. All right. So I wanted to start off with the intro to the album.
I never saw so many people tonight. I mean, y'all all got it crowded up in there, and that's good. I'm glad that y'all giving it up for y'all giving it up for it. That's good. Y'all make me want to cry, son. All right, ladies and gentlemen, tonight is a special night. One thing, let me introduce myself. My name is Mr. Russell Jones. Excuse me for that one. I have to let that one loose right now. And tonight, you're going to see something that you've never seen before. Something that nobody in the history of rap ever set themselves to do. This fucking guy that I speak to you about is something crazy. He's something insane. He's the greatest performer ever since, what's the guy's name?
All right, and then it just keeps on going on for a few more minutes and does this long screed to piano medley about getting gonorrhea, and then he sings a cover of a Blowfly song, and it's just this very long, drawn-out, drunken sort of intro for the album, which I think is kind of beautiful in how audacious it is to include such a long, ridiculous intro to this huge major label debut, you know. But yeah, I thought it was also interesting, that intro, because it's like, you know, Old Dirty Bastard there's no father to his style, as they say, you know, but he is giving some tribute to Blowfly in the beginning, and I think it could be said that, you know, Blowfly is a little bit of a precursor to Old Dirty Bastard, and I was trying to think about, you know, who else he may have drawn inspiration from, and I was thinking of Dolomite and Richard Pryor, who is sampled right in the beginning of the next song, and then I thought maybe you could make a comparison to Biz Markie with the kind of sloppy rap style and the singing and stuff, the bad singing and stuff. But I don't know. That was just my thoughts on the intro.
That was spot on, man. All of that stuff. RZA kind of described this as a comedy album, you know? So, and apparently Dirty knew Blowfly. And I didn't really know that, but he knew Blowfly, and he had a relationship with Blowfly. And Blowfly used to call him up sometimes and stuff like that.
Interesting.
Dope word.
Yeah, I was thinking about how, like you said, the intro is very unusual for, you know, a major label release, and how bizarre just the structure of a lot of the songs were, and the pace of the album is, you know, very non-traditional, and it's amazing how popular it was. Like, I love that something that weird and that raw became so popular and it connected with that many people. I think that's just truly a testament to his ability um, to kind of transcend all those things, to start it off like this and then still capture the audience is pretty amazing. And he has, he's got that talent and that raw appeal. And I thought, I mean, this album for me is like a perfect showcase of his ability, like his range. It kind of has the improvisational aspect. There's kind of like this immediate, like raw connection, but then the more kind of rehearsed rap stuff, and and then the humorous outtakes, like Skiz mentioned. I thought it was like a nice, I don't know, I guess a nice framework to showcase his range, where I think like his guest spots or his next album didn't really capture it, I think, as fully as this project for me.
Yeah, just that whole off the cuff, like even after the intro was just like so long, he just ended it by like, you know what I mean, just after the song, just like saying like, nah, yo, I'm just playing, nah, yo, just fuck, yo, here's the album, it's ill. And then it's just like, after all that, it's like, wow, he really doesn't give a fuck, you know what I mean? And then just that sort of energy and stuff, though, you know what I mean? Word.
Man, it always kind of reminded me of like a lounge singer sort of deal, like some Dean Martin or something like that, where somebody comes up and like builds him up real big and you can hear the crowd and the little piano vamping while he's like laying out a story, gives you a little background and starts singing a little bit, which he comes back to later on too. But that's what I really like about it. It sets him up to be like more than just your average rapper. This is a cat with like personality, a dude that's not really afraid to do whatever he wants to do on the vinyl.
And you can tell already just from jump that this is going to be a totally unpredictable album. You don't know what's coming up. And that's to me, that's the great part of it. It's like, it almost sounds like a mixtape that I used to like make as a kid, just like total random stuff. And, he sets that pace on that intro. And also, RZA said that this, out of all of the Wu-Tang releases, this is probably the most free expression out of all of the Clan albums. And it's because Dirty was a totally uncontrollable guy. It's his way or the highway, basically. So it's like even RZA, who was like a real control freak, he couldn't control Dirty, and he didn't want to. He just let Dirty do exactly what he wanted to do. And this is like, years and years of stuff that's stored up in him. He just threw it all out there. It's just like everything in the kitchen sink is on that album. So that's what I love about it. I was surprised that it did actually become a successful album, because it's so weird, it's so strange. And people like us could maybe appreciate that, but I'm amazed that it crossed over, and got more of a mainstream audience.
Yeah, I was thinking about the recording process. Like that's one thing, like looking at it more critically today, I was like, I wonder if a lot of this was improv or like done, without a beat. And then RZA kind of, formed some of these tracks or collage things together. Like even this intro, like, was it done with like, backing instrumental, or was it just Old Dirty doing the acapella? I don't know. Yeah, it has a different sensibility to it.
Yeah, word. And like, what the point about the popularity about the album and stuff, though, like, it's crazy that like from all the solos and stuff, though, like this was the one like that actually got nominated for like a motherfucking Grammy and shit, though.
Exactly.
And it also does like what a good intro is supposed to do, and it sets it up as a framing device. It's like, you're going to need to pay attention to what's going on in this album. You're probably going to need to be patient, because I'm going to take my time and do what I want to do on this album. And then like Tokyo was saying, he throws the swerve at the end where he's like, no, I'm just playing. So, you might buy into one thing and then he'll just swap it on you,
That's a really good point. Yeah, because it also shows, I think, that when somebody's so wild, you can kind of write off the craft sometimes, and people like buy into the persona and overlook all the technical ability. And I think that little twist at the end shows you that he's self-aware of this construct, and he's not just messing around. Like, this is all very deliberate and
Hell yeah.
calculated.
That's a very important point, Zach, because a lot of people, you know, look at Dirty as like a buffoon, but he was the exact opposite. He was a incredibly sensitive artist. He knew, self-aware, you know, he knew exactly what he was doing.
The intro track, you know, can you recall what were the kind of intentions and the process behind recording that piece and how it all came together? You know, was it really like a premeditated thing, or was there a lot of experimentation that kind of fell together?
What's crazy is when we went to Sterling Sound and we were putting the album together is when I actually heard that. I didn't even know this and him had did it.
Ah.
When we got to the studio and he started putting that in, I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, this is dope, but it's like crazy long, Dirty. He's like, that's all right. They gonna listen to it. He said, yo, you know what's the problem? People be, you know, stifling themselves to like do what the labels and everybody say. And that's why they albums don't come out with the perfection that they really want people to feel, because people can't really vibe with you the way they want to, because it keeps getting chop this out, chop this too long. We can only put this much on a CD. Dirty was like, if this album can't fit on one CD, then we're gonna put 2 CDs. He said, I don't care if it's just 2 songs on the next CD, but I don't want nothing out of this album chopped. And then him and RZA had at the time, Dante Ross was letting Dirty do what he wanted to do. So Sylvia Rome wound up coming later on and Dante Ross left. And then she wanted to kind of like chop it down, this and that a little bit. But Dirty was already in a buying contract with Dante Ross that he had a lot of creative control on what he wanted to do on his project. So they couldn't cut that out. So Dirty wanted this long intro. And when he got there, he was like, this is just, he said, I want to make it funny. I don't want an album just for people just to hear me rap. Just to hear me rap. And in order to understand my style, you got to get the joke in something shot out of me fast. You know, and everything. Like, he's singing, but he's not really singing. And he wanted to introduce that to everybody before they catch his singing in actually the album. So, and it kind of worked for that, because now it's like, oh my God, you hear what this motherfucker's doing? Oh man, what's next? I gotta sit here and listen and find out what's next.
Yeah.
Him and RZA spent time doing that. But a lot of the like other things that we're gonna talk about, you'll understand how I came about in those. But basically the intro, him and RZA dealt with that.
Yeah, well, it's a definitely a bold choice to put that first, and I love hearing that Dirty sort of put his foot down and insisted that be, you know, the first track, as long as crazy as it is. It's really cool to hear that. And you know, in that track, he sounds drunk, or he kind of sounds like he's acting drunk, you know? So that was another question I had, like, is he, you know, how much of this was sort of an act and how much was it really like fucked up and crazy in the studio, or was it a little bit of both?
No, it really wasn't being fucked up in the studio. Dirty was a creator. Like, when you hear Method Man and everybody talk about him, you know what I'm saying? If they wanted to be an entertainer, they want to be like Dirty, because Dirty's an entertainer. See, in the daytime, when he's doing on the show and on the stage, he's Old Cyrus and Old Dirty Bastard. So that character, he puts it to, you know, you go in the corner and you sit, you memorize what you're going to do, and you get ready for the stage, you know? It wasn't like all acting, it was natural, because, you know, he knew what it take to make people's bodies vibe to his kind of music, his style. And he realized it way before, because when Dirty was younger and we were younger, he used to do all of this singing and everything in the street and rapping, and niggas like, nigga, I ain't going away, you bugging out, blah, 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 blah. You know, but Dirty was like, he stood firm, like, nah, trust me, this is gonna be the next best thing. Nobody in the industry gonna be able to do it.
Yeah.
He proved everybody wrong.
And even like the cover, if I could talk about that for a second, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, this was a pure marketing genius.
Right.
Taking a food stamp card. It was not even his card. It was his wife's card. He pasted his picture on it. And, you know, that's basically, it's like, you know, a lot of people from the hood are embarrassed to use food coupons and stuff like that. But Dirty was like, yo, I'm from the hood. This is me. And I'm putting it right out there, you know?
He wanted everybody to know it started from being on public assistance, and now he's turned into this big hip hop artist. So that's what the food stamp card was really about.
Yeah, it was cool. It seemed like it was partially like letting people know to not be ashamed of being poor too.
Yeah, he wanted everybody to know I was one of them.
Yeah.
But look, I turned this food stamp card not only to paying my bills, I've turned it into a dream where people were like, yo, you can have this card, but that don't mean you can't get a record deal. This is just momentarily until you and God find a way to pick your life up and make it bigger.
He's proud of who he is. He's proud of where he came from. He was just like if I lived in Brooklyn at the time. I actually lived a few blocks from his grandmother's place. And let me tell you, the whole borough of Brooklyn was like riding with Dirty. When that album came out, I mean, it was just like the whole borough was united, you know, it was like, and that's something that you can't really, you know, that's something more from the time, but, you know, I just remember when that album came out, it was just like, you couldn't move around Brooklyn without hearing this record everywhere, you know?
Nice word. Dope.
And it was just like it's just like everyone got it. Everyone who was supposed to get it got it, you know. And it almost felt like this was our own little thing here. That's why I was like really surprised that it found a mainstream audience, you know.
Word.
Yeah, it seemed kind of cathartic in a way. Like even like I lived out in the country, like, you know, not an hour or so away from any city. And people were bumping it, like out in the cornfields, you know, and like, it just like, it was what people didn't know they wanted, but here it was, and they recognized it.
All right, well, I got track 2, the first real song of the album, Shimmy Shimmy Ya.
Oh, fuck you can't even sing. Yeah, just sing something to get some pussy. Ooh, baby, I like it raw. Yeah, baby, I like it raw. Oh, baby, I like it raw. Yeah, baby, I like it raw. Shimmy, shimmy, y'all, shimmy, yam, shimmy, yeah. Give me the mic so I can take her away. Off on the natural charge, bon voyage. Yeah, from the home of the Dodger Brooklyn squad. wu-tang killer, hubby's on the swarm. Rain on your college ass disco dorm. For you to even touch my skill, you gotta go to one killer B, and he ain't gonna kill now. Chop that down, pass it all around. Lyrics get hard, quick cement to the ground.
Word.
Yeah, I just think that's a great way to set it off. You know, it's like you hear the little piano melody and the production in general, I think, on this album sounds like it keeps that sort of off-kilter, drunken, about to fall off the rails vibe, which is just a perfect compliment to ODB, I think. And I also was noticing the structure of this song, which is basically a verse, the verse reversed, and then the same verse again. So it's like, it really feels like ODB doesn't necessarily have a structured plan for his songs when he goes in there. He's just like, it feels like it's just capturing lightning in a bottle, pressing record and seeing what you can get in the moment, and then cobbling things together later. But like, I think it was you, Zach, were saying, like, it's done in a way that's not too like controlling, where it's not like really carefully crafted, but loose and weird, which is just, again, just like a great compliment to ODB's style, I think.
Yeah, word, because it's like, even just from a production like point, like that track just in and of itself, it's like the piano the piano is just like, it's almost like, you know, like a kid with like a little toy joint, like, da, 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 like, hey, look, mom, da, 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 da. And like, it's got that, but then you add the boom, boom, and all that stuff though. And then it's this like, almost like these two different things is clashing and shit though, you know what I'm saying? I mean, word, I mean, and then like Dirty just like being on top of all that chaos and shit though, right? Now I mean, but also the point about how it's essentially just like one verse, and then he just reverses the shit and then kicks the verse again. And I'm just like, but it's almost like you don't really notice it until you notice it. But then even when you notice it, it doesn't really matter and shit. Now I mean, it still just gets you and shit. Now I mean, and like it still was another example of just like pure chaos, just like on some like, what the fuck is going on type shit. Now I mean, what?
Well, Tokyo, you hit it right on the head because you said this kind of sounded like a toy track, right? Mm-hmm. And it was actually made. There's one the drum loop is a sample of "I Like It" by the Emotions. It's like two bass notes and a snare shuffle. But all of the other sounds on the track, the piano melody, which RZA plays, and the bass line is from the Dr. Synth, which is like a toy synthesizer.
Oh,
the
shit.
Boss DS330. It's like this big.
Oh shit! What?
And that was RZA's first synthesizer, which he bought for like $200, and he uses that for a lot of the piano lines, and that also has some great bass sounds in it too. So that bass stab is from that Dr. Synth too. So it's basically like three elements, you know. And also I should mention that for most of the songs on this album, a lot of people don't know, but Dirty was actually the first solo member of the Clan to get a solo deal, not Method Man.
Oh shit!
Yeah, Dirty. I believe it was in like January of '93. He was up on Stretch and Bobbito show on KCR, Columbia radio station. And Dante Ross, who was the A&R at a lecture, heard him just bust a freestyle. And just off the strength of that, that's how Dirty got his deal. So even though he was the first member of the Clan to get the deal, he didn't deliver an album till 2 years later. So that's why he took his time on it. That's why it came out after Meth's album. Meth's album came out in November of '94. Dirty's album came out in March of '95. But the original point I wanted to make was that because Dirty was the first guy to get a deal, he had access to all of RZA's. He had first dibs on all of RZA's beats. So he picked all of those beats that he wanted for his album.
Nice.
Plus, they already had that all in together now connection.
Yeah,
too.
This is all probably old stuff. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All in together. That goes back to like, '84 or something like that. So
exactly, yeah. Which we'll definitely cover later because there's a song on here that sounds like it's straight out of that era. But I dig how this one. It's really structured to be like a single. Like it's almost structured to be like a rock song. How you're saying it's just a verse. And then like sort of a kind of chanty chorus to get people into it. Let's not even write another verse. Let's just kick the same verse again, double up on the energy, And then like that little reverse part is almost like a guitar solo or something. I dig how I like the single energy, but it's still raw,
Okay, word. It's a dope point out about that. That's like a guitar solo joint. Yo, that's dope. Word.
They were recording, right? And Jack actually made a mistake and hit a button and it went into reverse by accident. And Dirty said, "What was that? What's that? What's that?" And he said, "Yo, play that. I scared around." Well, you know what I'm saying? And then he's like, "Yo, that's dope." And then next thing you know, he was like, "Yo, is there any way to take the beat, let the beat keep playing, and then take that part and make all my words from the beginning go backwards?" And he's like, "Yeah, we could do that." And him and Jack got together and they were sitting there, and that's how that actually came about. And RZA had came in and was there, was like, "Yo, play that, let me hear it." And RZA was like, "Oh, word, that shit is dope." So and then RZA was like, nah, I'm gonna change the beat like a little bit right here and make it go like that, so that it'll seem like the track was made like that. Like we never even took the machine and did it reverse like that. It just Dirty actually, it seems like Dirty said it like that. RZA was crazy at that at making stuff like that. Seemed like it just belonged there like that.
The thing about this album is there's so many details in it, and you notice it. This is an album that you really have to listen to over and over and over again to really appreciate it, because the amount of detail is just incredible. Because the song starts with Richard Pryor saying, "Fuck you, you can't even sing." So that was like a little, like a self-diss, Dirty dissing himself, you know? I'm sure RZA accessed that sample, but Dirty was like, probably, yo, put that in there, you know?
Yeah.
Just little things like that. It's just incredible, because I don't think that at that time people were so into all these little skits and all these little transitions between songs and stuff like that. And that's where the Wu really took it to another level, you know, on people. Because
not unless you were like a De La fan.
Songs, and it's not just like beats and lyrics. There's a whole conceptual thing. There's details. There's skits. There's a whole world in there, and that's why these albums are designed to listen to over and over and over again. Because every time you hear it, you catch so many different things, so many new things, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's few albums that I'd like to see the recording process more than this one.
The thing that I'm saying about that situation, it was more like, it wasn't practice. It was like, okay, this is what I'm hearing. What do you think that I can put in here to make it sound better? And Dirty would sit there for a few minutes, probably have a 40, shaking his leg, rock back and forth for a quick second, and like, yo, just record everything I say, don't take nothing out. And then he'll do about 5 different takes, not even 5, he'll do about 25 to 30 different takes. And then he'll put it all up and be playing it, and like the engineer's sitting there like, yo, I don't know what to do with all of this. And Dirty say, I do. He'll clip out one button here. He'll take another button, he'll be like, fast. He's like, yo, hold up, save that. Now, we're going to start muting. He'll mute them all, and he'll listen to the first one. He said, take those 2 parts, save that, but clip everything else, but don't erase it. Just up until that part I wanted to play, and then we're going to switch to the other track and get the next part, and switch to the next track and get the next part, and switch to the next track and get the next. So it was layers. But when you heard it, it was a masterpiece. And Jack Hirsch was the engineer for all of this. And Jack was lost at times because Dirty made him lost. But then Jack, after being with us for a couple of different sessions, he learned how Dirty was.
Are you taping, baby? Baby, are you taping?
Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah.
Baby, come on, baby, come on, baby, come on.
What the fuck anybody wanna do? Right motherfucking now. I heard that. I'm the God who's the head of the Lord. Dirty bastard from the wu-tang squad. Can I get raw? Yes, I get dirty to the floor. Rhymes hitting on your mind, you can never ignore. Hip-hop to me is like a place to be. My specialty from if you do what them say what you wanna say, baby, say I'll flip the microphone any day.
Yeah, it's just reminding me of this conversation. I was like a little argument I was having with someone online. I was comparing, well, I was just saying this rapper who I won't name has never said anything clever or interesting in any of his lines, and this person countered like, well, what is, you know, because I guess I was praising ODB, and he was like, what has ODB ever said that's clever or, you know, interesting in any of his lines? It's like, I'll find plenty of lines for you. And I go and look at the lyrics, and I'm like, actually, yeah, there is not a whole lot of substance here, to be honest, but it's just like the delivery and the spirit that comes through in the performance that really is where the magic is for this guy, I think.
When you're talking about not a lot of substance, you mean like for ODB or for the other rapper?
For ODB, like if you look at a lot of his lyrics written, like I don't want to speak badly about him, but it's not saying anything super funny or clever most of the time. Like, it's hilarious, like, to listen to the album, but it's like, it's really like his inflections in the delivery I found that makes it special. When you really look and read the lyrics, there's not a whole lot there.
Yeah,
I gotta disagree, man. I gotta disagree with that.
That's what I was gonna say. This wouldn't be the song that I would hold up as the counter to your argument, but yeah, I gotta disagree with that too. Like, there's a lot going on in what he's saying, and yeah, I think it's just because he sounds so wild and so unchained when he says it that a lot of people get caught up in what he's doing and they're not really processing what he's saying, because some of it is a little coded too. You know, he's talking about a lot of like 5% stuff, and he's like putting in a whole bunch of like Eastern philosophy into it, and kind of talking about like celestial thinking and stuff. Like, there's a lot going on in there.
All right, I could be wrong. I haven't recently gone back and really absorbed all the lyrics, so maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
No worry. I listen to this album a lot.
He really was like a master in just performance, just like how like he delivered it and stuff though. Like he took that just like through like the moon. But
Hell yeah. It's like it's his voice is like an instrument, you know, it's like Coltrane playing the sax or something like that. You know, it's like that type of cadence and delivery. I mean, it's not easy, man. It is not easy to do that. No one can reproduce Dirty's style. No one can reproduce that style. There's no rappers that can rap like that.
Yeah, I can't think of. I mean, there's definitely rappers that have technical ability and can rap fast, but this I would say is like the strong man of lyricism. It's like athletic in a way that, like, with the breath control and endurance.
It's improvisational too.
Yeah, and be able to kind of swerve. Yeah, like change pace. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of like heroic athleticism on the mic in some ways. And yeah, I don't know exactly how to articulate this point, but going back to Jonah's original point, I was thinking about also not focusing on content, but thinking about his delivery as form, and how the Wu-Tang kind of had this non-linear style. I think a lot of rap is non-linear in a ways, but they were like the first to kind of get at these, it's hard to describe, but like little fragments where there's kind of like the trains going this way, but there's these little tangents that kind of jump off, and slang, you know, that kind of gets paired in there. So there's like all these meta narratives within a larger like theme of the song. And I think Dirty does that in a really interesting way. I think like on Cuban Links, that happens a lot with storytelling, this like meta narrative amongst a larger song, but he does it with Old Dirty does it here with slang and like playing with words, and then like the 5% concepts and philosophy, and then just like threats, you know. Then there's like everyday kind of stuff like mixed in, you know, just boasting and so on. Like, and I like that, the high and low kind of, you know, he has got like the highbrow concepts, and then the lowbrow, just like primal urges of like, you know, I'm gonna like kick somebody's ass or whatever, you know, aggression. It's like all kind of comes together in this non-linear, fragmented meta narrative. It's pretty impressive. And yeah, I can't think of anybody else doing it like that.
We had a little bit of a disagreement amongst us about like the depth of ODB's lyrics, you know, and especially considering that, you know, some of the lyrics were written by Jizza and others. What would you say about like the level of depth, the knowledge and wisdom that ODB put into his lyrics when he was writing?
I was there. I'll give you a perfect example on Stomp. RZA, this is when everybody had the Sonic. They didn't even have the ASR 10 yet. I think they gave RZA either 2 or 3 of them, and RZA gave one to Dirty, and then Dirty wound up actually giving it to me later. It was brand new. I still have it. Still use it too. But Dirty was like making the song Stomp. Dirty actually produced that track on an ASR in less than 20 minutes. And don't. And he was like, he was just sitting there, I'm the original G.O.D. Making young ladies scream is my specialty. When I go, ooh, 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 ooh. Like, he used to say that in a rhyme years ago. He used certain parts of a rhyme that he had, and he wrote new lyrics at the same time. So in the depth of his music and his hip hop and the way he write, it's spare of the moment. Sometimes he would have stuff, I could never read it because it looked, believe it or not, Dirty would write shit that looked like scribble scrabble, but he knew what it meant. I'm telling you, there was not an A on the paper. There was not a B or S. And the paper just looked like scribble scrabble. And then he would be able to go and look at the page and write and say what he wrote on this page.
Wow.
I was amazed by it because I never saw nobody do that. So it was like, he could never hand me the book and like, tell me what you think of this rhyme. So the depth of his rhyme, he knew what he was doing because he would wake up and look at the page and knew exactly what he said.
Wow. Yeah, I'm curious because, you know, a lot of people consider ODB like this silly, funny character, you know, but there was a lot of like deep, like 5%er knowledge and stuff in the lyrics too. So I was just curious, you know, if you could maybe comment on like.
The album that you listen to, you love it, right?
I love it.
Okay. Do you think if somebody was sitting there doing rap all day long trying to teach you about the nations of the gods and earth, do you think it would have been as much entertaining as it is now?
Certainly not, no.
Exactly. So in order for you to be able to reach the masses, you got to give them an understanding that they can understand. It wasn't him downsizing. It wasn't him thinking he better than anybody or belittling the situation. He knew what it took for people to move their ass on the floor. And with the knowledge that he does have, and being he wasn't even a jokester like that. He just knew what to do, when to do it, and how to do it to make everybody move to the beat of ODB when ODB was in the room. You understand what I'm saying? That's his job. At the end of the day, there's no father to his style, because at the end of the day, when he says there's no father to his style, it wasn't like practice. And then when somebody asks me something, I'm just ready for it. It was like, oh, the lights is on? Okay, you don't know what's gonna come out this nigga mouth when them lights switch on. But he gonna laugh and make jokes with you at a little bit, but then also there's a serious part that he needs to go into a depth to make people understand who he is. Now, if you notice when he does interviews, he actually starts building with people and telling people we're for the baby seed. You know, I'm from the nations of the gods and earth, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I gotta feed my babies, I gotta feed my people. I'm not trying to portray nothing that's trying to, like, some mystery spook God or whatever to fill your mind with nothing that you can't feel, taste, see, or hear. I'm giving you stuff that you can enjoy and pay for and be happy that you was entertained by this album as well. And that was Dirty.
Yeah, it's a brilliant formula.
I think Dirty, if you had to pick one member of the clan who embodies the witty, unpredictable talent and natural game, to me, it's Dirty. I don't have a favorite MC, but to me, if you were to pick one MC out of the clan who represented all of them and what they stand for, it would be Dirty for me.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, he's definitely the spirit of everything and shit, though, know what I mean? Yeah. But
all right, shall we hear Brooklyn Zoo?
Yeah, what? Tell that nigga, yo. He ain't saying nothing, fuck him. I'm the one-man army, ain't sworn. I never been tooken out. I keep MCs looking out. I drop signs like Crosby dropping babies. Enough to make a nigga go crazy. In the G building, taking all types of medicines. Your ass thought you were better than a son. I keep planets in orbit while I be coming with deeper and more shit. Enough to make you break and shake your asses. I create rhyme good as the tasty cake makes. This style I'm mastered in. Niggas catching headaches, what? You need aspirin? This type of pain you couldn't even kill with Midor. Fuck around, get sprayed with Lysol in your face like a can of mace, baby. Is it burning? What fucking now you're learning how
I don't even like your motherfucking profile.
Word. Oh, that shit. Word.
Man. Yeah. It's like crazy, surreal, abstract gun bars and shit.
Yeah, and like the two things about that joint that like kind of just like hit me is just like well, first from a production like standpoint, I believe that was the first time that I ever heard like anything from True Master and shit though. And the crazy thing about him and shit though is just like I was watching, there's like this clip that's up on YouTube, right? It's like from like 89 to 90 or some shit though, right? It's like Gangstar and they're on tour and Bradford Marcellus is like right there. And Guru and Primo are just introducing the whole entire like crew. And True Master was actually a member of like your crew and shit though. And then watching that clip, it kind of hit me like, okay, True Master, technically he came up with Gangstar. So he came up under Primo and RZA and shit, you know what I mean? Which is fucking nuts. And so you hear the way like how like his beats just like really bang, it kind of like really makes sense. Because it's almost like he's got the mysterious Wu sound, but with the punchiness of Primo shit. And he really flexed out on that beat, but also Fish. So we're not gonna talk about Fish. That's like later on shit, I mean. But and plus the other thing about Brooklyn Zoo that I really loved this shit though was like, the crazy thing about that was that the single version, which is the clean version, was actually crazier than the album version and shit though. Because like my favorite part in like the clean joint was like, yo, but no, who couldn't figure how to pull a gun trigger? Get out of here! But then on the album, he says it more straightforward, but on this clean joint, he goes nuts. And I'm like, dude.
And
The clean version of this was dope.
that's a really good point about True Master too. I didn't realize that he came up under Premier too.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
True Master is underrated as a producer, man. I mean, did anyone hear the album he did with KRS-One, Metahistorical? Did you guys hear that?
I slept on that.
That shit is dope, man. True Master. Once again, he's got a little bit of RZA, and you just opened my eyes to that whole Premiere thing. Because he was on that first Ill Kid compilation, which came out around the same time, like 94, 95.
Yeah.
And that original sample was actually from an obscure reggae 7-inch.
Oh, shit, word.
Yeah,
Sure.
called Step Softly by Bobby Ellis and the Desmond Miles 7. And it's just like, if you hear the original, it just sounds like someone's like sitting on the piano. So he actually like sampled like 3 notes and then like replayed it and shit on the, so it's like it's skillfully done. It's like it's not like an obvious sample, it's like, so that's another thing that you got to keep in mind, like in the pre-Wu era, it was all about just loops. Just a sample was just like a recognizable loop. But then you get producers like RZA, like True Master. They're taking like little pieces of things, even like pieces of drums, like just the shuffle of a snare. They're taking like little micro pieces and putting it together, layering it, and making a full phrase. And that we don't appreciate that now, but this was the first time that was being done. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. In that era, the early 90s, where we're moving away from just sampling, a 2-bar regular recognizable thing, to then sampling like a hit, and then adding it to something else, to make a complete phrase. So.
Yeah, like you're 100% with that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because like earlier on, like with like cats, like with more of the loops, because almost like the digging was almost like the point. Like, hey, I got this loop and shit at the right, and then that was just like the vibe. But then RZA and them was like, nah, let's restructure this thing. Word, dope.
And also, Brooklyn Zoo was obviously Dirty's crew, consisting of his cousins Murdoch, Razon the Zookeeper, 12 O'Clock, Shorty Shitstain, and Buddha Monk, who was his DJ. And Buddha was actually the guy who was in the studio all the way through with that album. And he's got a book out too, and you should read that book if you want to know about studio sessions during the making of that album. He's got a lot to say about that in there.
Nice.
What's that book?
Look it up. It's by Buddha Monk and Mickey Hess. I don't have the title right off the top of my head, but I definitely read it for research for my book. And there's some really interesting stories in there, because basically Dirty was just running on. Dirty he wanted to have fun. This is the first time in his life he's had money, and he was out to have fun. He wanted to make a good record, but he was out to have fun. And so Buddha Monk was the guy who was actually in the studio 24/7, saying, "Dirty, you got to get in here. You got to come and record a verse." So he was the guy who kept things on point. Meanwhile, Riz is dealing with all the other stuff. Riz is dealing with other people's solo projects and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's the Dirty version on stage, in the studio, and in the streets with Old Dirty Bastard. And I have to check that out.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah, this was the single, I think, that I heard that put me onto the album. I just remember seeing the video and just like, it was this like aesthetic universe that was just born with that. And I like seeing the rapper, like, even though the New York street style with like the baggy jeans and the Timberlands and stuff was like in fashion, and the Carhartts at the time, but it was still kind of clean. And he was like the first like sloppy looking, like he had his hat like all like pulled down sideways and like the glass with like one lens in it. And I was like, yeah, like this is like, finally, like there's like, a rapper that doesn't have impeccable style. And like I just really like that sloppy aesthetic and appearance. And I remember, this is just going from memory, I haven't seen it in a while, but I remember just it being crowded. Like there's just like, they're in like, they filmed it like in the hallway or something. Like there's just a ton of people, and like, yeah, that to me was also awesome, that just like picking these like in between spaces and populate them in the videos, like things that you wouldn't normally see in a video. So I love that approach. And I remember just thinking about seeing the video for the first time. I remember buying this album at Universal Mall, and I picked up this and Big L's first album, and just like, yeah, imagine copping both of those at the same time.
Okay, word.
Can't do that now. There's a lot of good stuff now, but just that feeling, going to the store and picking up both of those at once.
Yeah, this was a golden era for buying music like that. Stuff was coming out in bunches, man.
Yeah, like every Tuesday it was just like the next joint, right? Yeah.
Seriously. Quick question. Do y'all have any thoughts on him in this song sort of conflating mental illness and taking that and using it in sort of the same way that like people do the tough guy posture and kind of stuff in hip hop?
Damn.
Can you elaborate on that? I'm not sure what you're referring to.
So sort of like where, rather than him be like, I'm out here on the block getting high and getting drunk and we're taking folks out, he's like in the G building taking all type of medicine and just, like,
okay,
just sort of, yeah, like, basically, he's not like, I'm a tough guy. He's like, I'm crazy. My crew is crazy. If you step in the target, you're done for, Yeah,
there's another level of the braggadocio rap, that hasn't, I guess you see that in movies, right? Like the psychopathic, like protagonist or whatever is just bragging about how out of it they are. And yeah, I think it's a good point. It wasn't a common thing. It wasn't a common way to flex. And I think he was definitely unique in that. I don't know. I have no way to like say like how legitimate that stuff was, or like if it's moral or whatever. But I think it's definitely a unique approach to posturing that hadn't been done at the point.
Yeah, that just always stood out. Sorry, I was just gonna say that always stood out to me about this song. How like this was back when it was like, I'm a tough guy, I'm a hard knock, and he's like, well, I'm crazy. you know.
Yeah, that's actually a great point because, at the time, rap is about self-aggrandizement, and who's going to call himself old dirty bastard? That's like dissing yourself, right? But that's what I said about Dirty. He's got no shame, no filters, and he's proud of what he is, And that was, and the same thing about Zach said about not looking pretty and everything like that. That's the whole aesthetic of Dirty.
I would also think that is one tactic for, protecting yourself in a rough area, as opposed to being like, I'm dangerous, I have a gun. It's like, I'm fucking crazy, you don't know what I'm gonna do. So, people don't want to take their chances with a, unpredictable person.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. It's the unpredictable shit. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Tokyo.
Oh, that's all good. That's all good. No, like I was just gonna say, like, a lot of times the funny thing about hip hop is that even like looking at it from a wider like context, like a lot of it like sometimes does react to like a lot of like post-traumatic sort of like things and stuff, though. You know what I mean? Because what you said about the mental health thing and shit, though, like one song that made me think about, though, you know what I'm saying, was that like one song that everyone like, just loved was My Mom Playing Tricks on Me by like the Ghetto Boys. And like somebody was on YouTube who actually was like a therapist and stuff there, right? You know what I'm saying? And like they actually were breaking down what that song really had. They were talking about depression, loneliness, like hallucinations and all that stuff, though. And even like one of the part, like I remember that everyone would always scream out this part, like what it was like now she's back with her mother. Now I'm realizing that I love her, like that part. And like you really listen to that, and like it's like, man, that sucks. You know what I mean? And like even I didn't even like this one time when I was remixing Cream, one that just had this like the vocals and stuff, though, right? The vocals to like Cream. And then like I grew up on the crime side, the New York Times side, right? And like Deck saying like, though I don't know why I chose to smoke sex. I guess that's the time when I'm not depressed. I mean, just all that sort of stuff and stuff, you know what I mean?
But and then he's like, but I'm still depressed. That's the crazy part.
Yeah, right? Word, right?
Yeah.
And like, yeah, but like, we're looking at it from somebody like Dirty, though, like what you just said about the G building, like in the G building taking all kinds of medicine, that didn't even really sink in until you just said it now. Down was like, okay, word, you know what I mean? But like, but that's a really good point, though. Just something just to like think about, though. Why?
He says G building. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I think the G building is part of Bellevue Hospital, actually.
Oh, so it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like people in New York know about that. Like if you have like a psychotic episode and shit, that's where they take you. The G building.
Okay.
It's definitely a bold move to like talk about your mental health at in this era, and I think it's much more common now, right? People are oversharing constantly, and it's like it's less stigmatized. But I think at that time, it was definitely a bold move, and I think Tokyo's reference to the Ghetto Boys made me think of like Scarface was another person like that like I think dealt with anxiety and depression, but not in like an emo way or like looking for sympathy. It's like it's like struggling through it and expressing that. So I think that's a good parallel to what ODB was doing.
Yeah, I think definitely just him letting it all hang out, like I think Skiz was kind of talking about too, is part of the charm, but doing it in a sort of like a proud way too. So I want to know, like, how much truth is there to that line? Was this just completely made up, like I'm pretending that I'm crazy, or was ODB like institutionalized at certain points? Was he on meds or
institutionalized? And they did put him in the G building and give him all types of medicine. And that was when we went and got him with Mariah Carey and Damon Dash out of the crazy house. But before that, when he said it at that particular time, he was letting everybody know, like, I think people are misguiding on what that really meant because he did go through some trauma like that. What he was saying was in the G building, taking all types of medicine. Yo, ass thought you was better than, because at that point when he said that rhyme, he was letting you know as a rapper, to battle me, you're gonna lose your mind. You're gonna be in the G building taking all types of medicine because you thought you was better than a song. I keep playing spin orbit while I be coming with deeper and more shit. So when you think you finish rapping at him, he's a song. He be hitting mad different planets, coming with deeper other shit that he ain't even said to you yet. That's gonna show you that there's no father to his style and you can't fuck with him in rapping. That's what he meant by that.
Wow, that adds a whole different dimension to it. I hadn't realized that at all. That's awesome.
Nobody didn't realize it. He say, because when the whole rhyme wasn't about the way he said the rhyme. It felt to everybody like a story being told if it was that person, but they didn't really realize he was telling rappers, you can't touch me with a 10-foot pole because the stuff that I invent, it's going to take you a long time to even realize what I really meant when I said it.
Yeah. It's funny too, because it wasn't until the group discussion that I realized he said in the G building. I always thought it was energy building. And the G building.
Nah, it was definitely in the G building taking all types of medicine.
Yeah. All right, so here's Rawhide.
This that shit that's gonna get you high. See, when you stimulate your own mind for one common cause, you see who's the real motherfuckers. See what you see, it's you what you see. Be the original G, rhyming on time and in the place to be. Lady love, see me. You're a crossbreed, I'm a dollar sheet. I want action, that's what I need. I never put doubt on my mind, cause I know when I touch the mic, there's the rhyme. See, murder, which is caused when you fuck with the negative and positive charge. Then I came up out my garage with the hit that's gonna...
Yeah, I love that joint right there. What?
Yeah, it's a monster. Yeah, I mean, like that intro is like to that song is something I was thinking about. Like now, like it makes perfect sense, and like how he comes in, it's just like it's amazing. But like that little sing-songy like improv, it seems like a freestyle in the beginning. Like, was that part of a longer session from something else completely, and that got cut and put as the intro to this? You know, like who knows? It's something I was thinking about today, trying to pick it apart. But I mean, that's again just like this unexpected song structures, and it was like, and this might sound corny, but like an experience as opposed to like an album with like discrete songs and discrete verses and hooks. This is like a whole entire world that you're getting immersed into and kind of like dragged through. Yeah, it's a much different approach to a listening experience.
That's a good way to put it. Dragged through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was that song where he's got a verse where the use of his breath is just incredible. Like, every time I get around devils, let me calm down. You know, it's like, better start running because I'm coming. I'm dope like fucking heroin. You know, it's like, damn. It's just like the way he uses breath in that song. You know, we say spitting as a euphemism for rapping these days, right? That's some real spitting, man. You feeling the spray in your face on that one, man. He's like coming through the speaker.
It's like palpable, visceral experience of the breath. You're getting so close to it.
Yeah, what? I remember this one interview when rap Page was interviewing the RZA for the record producer thing and shit though, and RZA said like when he made that beat, he said the beat for Rawhide will make you frown because I was frowning when like I made that shit though. Know what I mean, and every time I listen to it, like I just instinctively just like start frowning and shit though. Know what I mean, I'm gonna talk about the RZA a lot. That's my dude. But that shit was ill though. You know what I mean,
That was a fucking demonic beat, man. That was straight up demonic. I mean, that was like the screw face, like, and if you listen to it, there's nothing that's on time on that beat. There's no like usual boom bap. You know, it's like the whole beat is a chord progression.
yeah.
So he took one little piece of a snippet of sound and he played it on the ASR, and then there's that kick drum that just hits in there. So it goes boom, boom, boom.
What?
Boom, boom, boom. That's the beat. You know, there's no regular drums or bass line or anything. It's just like it's sound. It's just sounds. You know, I mean, and I was like, that just blew my mind when I first heard that shit, because it was like, where's the beat? There's no beat on this thing, man. It's just like a chord progression and a kick.
Yeah.
You know? And those MCs are so skillful that they were able to ride that. And you get 3 completely different styles on that.
Yeah, right.
You get Dirty, Ray, and Meth. And then Meth comes back with the fucking hook, where he takes the actual theme song for there used to be a show called Rawhide in the 50s. It was like or in the 60s, it was like a series. It was like a cowboy series.
What, that's what that's from?
Yeah, and he took the theme song from that for the hook.
It's usually a lot faster. It's like, move them in, get them up, stick them up, rawhide.
Yeah,
like,
but it's like where did he get that? He wasn't alive during the 50s and shit. Like, you know, that's not a part of my childhood. I don't, like, where did he get that from, you know?
Yeah. Maybe he saw the Blues Brothers. That's where I saw it in that movie.
That could be.
Where that makes sense.
Yeah, he was a Blues
That's
Brothers
probably where he
fan.
got. That's probably where he got it. Yeah.
They did the Blues Brothers inspired video, right, with him and Redman.
Yeah. Where? Yeah.
Yeah, I like the description of the beat is demonic, because I would think like it gives me like a sense of anxiety and excitement, where like almost when you like walk into a party late at night and it's just like that energy of like things could go south, like it's just like that energy is just heavy and hanging in the air. It's like something's gonna happen, and like that's just like how the beat fight like feels to me.
Word, dope.
I think that's kind of what Dirty was rhyming on too with this, because like this will be an example of a song that I bring up that has some substance to it, because at least my read, it's all about intention and like action. This whole verse is about, you know, positive and negative charges and putting your mind to something. And like he even contradicts himself where he's like, I got to get paid fully, whether it's truthfully or untruthfully. So it's accepting reality and accepting life. But at the same time, the key point is I got to get paid fully, you know. But just little stuff that he says in there, like murder, which is caused when you fuck with the negative and positive charge. And so that's just all about like not mixing energies that, you know, cause conflict and whatnot.
Yeah, he's talking about process too, and he's like, then I come out the garage with the hit that's going to be large, you know. So it's like he's working on, he's showing you the behind the scenes of the craft, and like you said, the intentionality behind it.
Yeah, he spells out the PEACE later, which is the positive energy activates constant elevation, is what they always use peace for. So like there's a lot going on that he sneaks in, and then like even Meth, when he's doing his stuff, like half his verse is straight up 5%, you know, where he's talking about fearing for the 85 who don't have a clue, and how could he know what the fuck he never knew,
Right.
and all that.
God cipher divine.
Yeah, exactly.
Come to show and come to prove. Yep.
Yeah. So they're throwing little darts of knowledge in there too, but there's just so much style on top of it that it's like once you break through that style layer, that's when you start picking up on what's being said and like what the subtext is, at least in my opinion.
I would. No, good
I
point.
think that's a great point. That's a great point. You know, I mean, that, and you know, like Dirty was, he was a serious 5%er. You know, I mean, he mastered the 120 lessons by age 14. You know, probably the only guy who did it before that was RZA, who was like 11, 12. You know, so these guys were serious. They were serious about their studies. You know, about the 5%, and it's so skillful how they disseminate that, you know, through the verses, you know, because it's not like hitting you on the head with it. It's more something like, what's that? I want to check that out, you know. And that's and for me, listening to it at the time, that's exactly what I did, because I was like, I didn't know about the 5%ers, you know. I didn't really, and it really made me want to go and research what these guys are all about, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. You keep hearing the term 85 in songs, you know, keep hearing people talk about the 85, all these different rappers. And yeah, after a while, you're just like, what? And you know, there's no internet at the time.
Luckily, I lived in New York, so you know what I did? I went up to the Allah School in Harlem.
Oh, wow.
And I just knocked on the door, and I said, I'm interested in finding out about the 5%. And this guy in a wheelchair was out there. And I was talking to him, and he said, "You're interested about the 5%? Hold on a minute." He wheels over to the thing, and he stands up out of his wheelchair and goes to him, and he gets me this pack of literature and a cassette.
Oh wow! Yo.
And it was wild, man. The cassette was wild because it had all this knowledge, like the Earth is 93 million miles from the sun, and there's some serious scientific knowledge in there. And then you got the supreme mathematics and the supreme alphabet, and it's deep. It's deep. And I should say that in my book, I do have a whole chapter on the influence of the 5% on the wu-tang, and I go pretty deep into 5% knowledge because you know, as you said, it's like their bread and butter, you know, and they don't hit you over the head with it, but you definitely have to know something about it to appreciate their lyrics.
Exactly. I mean, it's been there since Enter the Wu-Tang. They've been talking about it. So, and it's pretty much universal across all the releases you hear about it, whether it be like fundamental, like Killer Priest, or even just kind of sprinkled in like an Old Dirty or a Method Man, but it's always there, you know, in their message.
Definitely. Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of maybe interesting to think about it as like postmodern gospel in a way. Like there's, you know, where gospel music, there's a direct message, you know, it's like very transparent, but here it's more coded and kind of peppered in with other content. So kind of like a deconstructed approach to delivering the message or this teaching.
Yeah. And the language of the 5% scriptures and stuff is very like conducive to like modern day, you know, street rap slang. Like it's a poetic language, but it doesn't sound antiquated so much. So like it works really well with rap lyrics, I think. And it took me a long time to figure out that was 5%er stuff, like all the gods and all that slang.
Even peace.
I just thought it was street slang from New York, but
there's so much the 5%ers and hip hop basically came up together, you know. So it's like they're like this.
Our lessons of life: knowledge, wisdom, understanding, freedom, justice, equality, food, culture, shelter, love, peace, and happiness is everything in our music, our life with our families, our kids, your life, how we coincide or how we interact with one another. It plays the most biggest part in our lives because that's our way of life. And if I can teach somebody this way of life and try to make them understand who they are and what they need to do to lift themselves up, my lessons of life and the nations of the gods on earth have taught me how to do that and be able to stay humble at the same time when people try to deny it or try to say they don't believe it. But I just keep pushing forward and showing them that my success and my victory is in what I do and not doing what others tell me to do. So it played a huge part of him in his music, in his career, the way he teaches kids, the way he taught others. Dirty was a teacher. Whenever you got around him, whenever it was time for us to go to the rally is a place where all the gods meet and we build about our way of life. Today's mathematics, like today's the 29th, so that would be wisdom born, all being born, you know what I'm saying, to knowledge, because 2 and 9 is 11. So knowledge would be, the knowledge would be 1 and 1. So 29 becomes 11, and that's why it says all being born to knowledge. So I'm giving y'all the wisdom on what happened at the time with Dirty here and there, what happened with me and you having this conversation right now. And I'm making it born by making it whole. It's a complete cipher that consists of 360 degrees, 120 knowledge, 120 wisdom, 120 understanding. And I'm bringing all of this to the table to make you have an understanding of what it took to make this album happen, what it took for Dirty to be the person to make this album happen. You know, some of it sounds like all last fun shits and giggles, but there was a lot of moments in here that people don't understand. Even though it sounds good on the album, there was drama, you know? But the thing was not to show people the drama. The thing was to show how to be a creator of drama and everything in your life. And without knowledge, without wisdom, and without understanding and without our way of life, of our mathematics, we probably wouldn't have been capable to even make that happen. So thank you to the Father who gave us these lessons to learn, you know?
It's interesting to hear you mention the element of how that made you humble, because I think you really see that in ODB, the way he conducted himself. Even though he was a superstar, it seemed like he did retain an element of being humble. And, you know, that definitely runs counter to even the idea of, you know, as you're gaining wisdom and knowledge and power, that can often lead to like someone's ego getting out of control. But it's really cool to hear that the humble aspect somehow remains.
He felt that he was greater. He felt that he was one of the greatest of all time, and one of the greatest in his crew. And he thought he was big as life should be. But also, you see a child under a car, you don't walk by because you old dirty bastard and the ambulance is on their way. That doesn't make you a man, and it doesn't make you bigger than life. What makes you bigger than life is when you get out the car and you go and help a child up under a car. That's what makes you bigger than life. That's what makes you more than just a star, because you care other than yourself. Because a lot of times people meet rappers and they be like, fuck off. I'm not signing no autographs. Get out of here. Yo, could you stop them from coming near me? But Dirty wasn't like that. If you came up to Dirty and you wanted an autograph, he could do 95% of the time. I'm not going to say all the time. 95% of the time, Dirty was with it. The other 3% was like, you got to pay for it. And the other 2% was, today's not a good day, but I don't want to be disrespectful, but I just don't feel like signing. I'm tired, exhausted, and I got a lot of things on my mind right now. And he would tell people that. You know what I'm saying? He was respect. And then there was sometimes some niggas would be like ignorant. He's like, yo, man, get the fuck out of here. I'm not signing nothing today, man. And niggas be like, fuck you, nigga. He's like, see, that's the reason why you ain't got the autograph now, because you're an asshole. You understand what I'm saying? And then, so, you know, you gotta, it all depends on the day. More than likely, 95% of the day was beautiful. I'm waking up with money and a new life, and I ain't got to worry about getting out of my bed at a certain time to go punch a clock up. And people telling me, do this, that button is wrong on a shirt or some shit. So everything plays a role. Better life, better promise. Also, you know, us having knowledge of self has helped us before we became popular. It taught us how to be men in this street. It taught us how to, you know, yo, you got to be out there going to get it for yourself. It says in the Bible, I will help those who help themselves. So when you start helping yourself, God is going to help you. And that's all it is, bro. At the end of the day, that's what Dirty was about, man. He was about help. Sometimes he would be somewhere and he would just stop and be like, okay, all you kids right here. Yeah, give everybody ice cream. Put $100 bill on the thing. He said, the guy be like, you got change, you keep it. Just give everybody that come up ice cream and drive off. It says, you know, when you give somebody something, you always get back triple fold. He taught that. My father taught that, and Dirty bettered that in a lot of us. And that's the way Dirty is. And he's always been good to people, period. Like nobody better not ever try to take that away from him, because then I would be highly upset.
Yeah, that's great. Really speaks to just being grounded. And, you know, that's something that he talked about too, with even in his name, the dirt in his name. He talks about we're from the dirt, you know, and I'm keeping it dirty, you know. It's like keeping it grounded.
Your dick in the dirt.
All right, we got Damage up next.
I got the Asiatic funk mixed with disco. Roll up on the scene like the Count of Monte Cristo. NLC start to vanish.
I stepped up to a jet black kid, started speaking Spanish. Yo, he wasn't from Panama. Asked him how he gets so dark. The nigga said, son, Panama. He be spawning so fast, he made me laugh. Ha 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 ha. Then I scared his ass. Kicked 100 strongest rhymes. I brought out the punk and caught him with a strong 5 deadly venom. Told him into the wu-tang. Witness the Shaolin slang. Gotta crush the shit you bring.
And watch your ass take a big fall. Why? My main source is like a friendly game of stickball. And as you step up to Batman,
I play the Riddler.
try to do me for a rhyme,
And I changed the Hitler.
go out like a Nazi. You be wishing the fucking ass stayed home and play Yahtzee. Or watching Happy Days, sweating posse. With Ralph and Richie Cunningham, Johnny and Johnson. Me getting wrecked, you up too.
What?
Jizza, of course, on the other mic there.
Yo, and like crazy thing about that is just like that was a good case about Dirty just bringing something out of whoever he was like spitting with, because like Genius was usually more like reserved, and like it took a lot to make the Jizza just start yelling and shit though, you know what I'm saying? And then that was one of the few songs that I remember hearing and shit though, where like that, and I feel Bring the Ruckus was one like you really heard Jizza not have that kind of measured, calm sort of delivery that was still kind of like, and I mean, with this joint, it's like you hear him actually yelling and shit, you know what I mean?
Man, this song has some of my favorite lines on the album, and they're just like little corny lines, but like that whole, now picture that with the Minolta, or you and your DJ change your name to Ma and Pa Kettle. I love the shit that they're kicking back and forth on this song.
Yeah, it's more traditional structure, like the routine, you know, and like in the punchlines, it's like it's their take on that approach.
Yeah, it's more of that all in together energy.
Oh yeah, this is definitely goes back to All In Together Now crew days, you know. And I think Jizza actually wrote the whole rhyme. And as a matter of fact, a lot of lyrics on this album were originally Jizza's lyrics. Not a lot, but you can tell which ones they are. This song in particular is one. So like All In Together, you know, it was RZA, Jizza, and Dirty. And this is like the first group that they started in whatever, 84. So a lot of these routines are from those days when it was the three of them. You know, that's why Zach, it is a little more structured. And it has almost like that old school feel to it. You know, the rhymes have kind of like that old school feel to it, you know?
Right.
Yeah, like that kind of Beastie Boys, Run DMC interplay.
Exactly. That era. So that you can kind of date the track to that. And another thing that I want to say is, you know, the Clan share lyrics with each other freely. Yeah. You know, and they admit it, and Jizza even admitted that he wrote a lot of lyrics, that he wrote a lot of the lyrics on this album. But it's like Dirty made them his, you know? It's like,
yeah, word. Yeah.
Because even Jizza could not, you know, match Dirty's delivery on some of these things, you know?
Yeah, word.
All right. Well, we got Don't You Know queued up.
Nasty nigga, I do anything, baby. I wouldn't give a fuck what it was. Anything. I'm a nasty motherfucker, girl. I'm just sitting right in my class at 9:45, right, waiting patiently for the class to begin, right. Teacher said, open up your text, repeat the first paragraph on oral sex. I said, oral sex? What kind of class is this? The girl next to me said, what's wrong with you, miss? This is a lesson that makes you feel fine, kind of ease your nerves. lost your mind. I said, don't try to use no hypnotic spell. He said, be my assistant, I sure rather tell. My knees, my new heart started to drop. My dick grew at a size that my nerve couldn't stop. I tried to run, she yelled out, freeze. Pulled down my drawers, dropped to her knees. Ripped off my drawers as if she had claws. Broke the rules that defied sex laws.
Broke the rules that defied sex laws. Love that.
See,
line.
that's a jizzer rhyme that he wrote in high school.
Oh wow.
Yep.
Now, it's, there's like footage up on YouTube when they were at the talent show. RZA kicked that whole entire joint, and Dirty was doing the beatbox and shit, though, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And like that just went back with like your like point about them just like kicking like each other's rhymes, because like, and with what you said about how Dirty took that and like made it his. Because when you heard RZA just kicking that, it was the same exact rhyme, but when you hear Dirty kicking it, it's a whole completely different sort of feel to it and shit, though. Know what I mean? Word.
And the whole rhyme style is from like Hustler's Convention. You know that album, Hustler's Convention, Lightning Rod? It was like Pimp Toast and Prison Toast and stuff like that. You know, so it's like it's a real old style of rhyming.
Nice, word. No.
I love the Lynn Collins loop in the background. Don't you know that I know? Don't you know that I know? That's a great little touch in there, you know?
I love that you queued it up where you did too, because I was going to bring up that exact part of the song last week the last time when we were talking about Camp Low, because the way he opens up with that, I'm just sitting like that little right part. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the same thing that Camp Low uses for Lucchini in the hook. Like, this is it. What? You know, Chino uses it for us. Chino kind of uses it for a song, Riot. And it's just like an old style. That's like a style that cats would kind of get into their rhyme too. But yeah, I always like when people sort of take those conventions and make them their own.
Dude, that was dope. I didn't even catch that. That's dope. Hell yeah. We're dope.
The two girls, yo, Cutie got it going on. What? That motherfucker? Da-da-da. And then you hear the girl who was there with me. She didn't kind of like the girl who was talking for Dirty that day. She said, and then she said to the girl, that motherfucker's like, oh, he's so fine. She said, what? He not fine. Well, you got on glasses, so I don't know what you can see. And she's like, true. My shorty was really attacking her in that song. And Dirty used it because they were actually, he just made them go in the room and he said, whatever come to mind, just say it to each other. Because I knew that the shorty I was, she didn't really like the shorty that he was with. He knew the bit. She felt like she was a gold digger type chick or whatever. You see what I'm saying? So now I'm sitting there, my mind is being blown by this shit. Like, yo. So when you hear the song again and you hear that, you'll be like, yo, Buddha told me exactly what that shit was.
And now I got the intro to Going Down.
Punch God! No, remember when you used to say, who could do this alone?
That shit right there is freedom that money can't buy. Know what I mean? It's just like yo, like, you know what I mean? Like, if everyone could just like, as we go around and stuff though, if everyone could just tell me what y'all thought the first time that like you listened to that, I'd like to like see like everyone's just like thoughts, because I remember the first time I was listening to it, and he's just doing the joint with the I'm like, huh? Like, you know what I mean? Like, just what the, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's literally like, I can't even think of anything to reference that shit to and shit though, to like be on some, okay, This reminds me of the time that I heard this.
I used to do that as a kid. Did you guys used to do that?
Yeah, I did too. When I heard it, I was like, oh, somebody else does that too?
It's just like, where the hell did he pull that out of, man? We all did it as a kid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. I'm happy to hear all y'all
He
say
took
that.
me right back to when I was 5, 6 years old, man. How did he do that?
It's like one of those things you don't talk about too. Where it's just like there's no reason to do it in front of anybody else. So it's just like this private thing that somehow like became public and became exposed, but it's like this universal need or urge to do that.
Yeah, I used to do that shit just like in my bedroom or like walking down the street by myself. When I heard him do it, it's the same thing. I'm like, wow, like somebody else does this. This is crazy.
I used to do that. I used to go sit on my mom's couch, and like when you do something and they put you in the corner and you can't go nowhere, you had to do stuff to keep you play with yourself in your mind. Like you got a bunch of people, what you doing this? So you like, like making noises and stuff like that. They'd be like, be quiet. And you just go, and then he said, punch card. When I heard punch card, I was like, I never played the game, but I always heard people say it and see how it's played. And so I was like, did he just say punch card? So I say, you know what? This shit is a masterpiece. We gotta put this in there. And when I heard it, and then RZA wasn't there, he played it for me. He's like, yo, what you think? You think we should put this in? I'm like, Dirty, you need to put that shit in right there by going down. And that's when, because I told you I was there to place a lot of the music with him and everything. But when I heard all of that, and I was like, that's going to be crazy, because with that and Shaquita coming in later on and cursing you out and you yelling, boom, 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 boom. Him and RZA probably thought out all of that. But when I got there, I said, Going Down is the track that's going to fit perfectly to start that off.
Yeah, it's an amazing sequence. And I never understood what he was saying. You said punch card?
Punch card.
What is that's a game?
It's a game that back in days as a kid, you used to play this game called punch card, like tap, tap, tap. When you tap the can, I see you behind the garbage can, tap, 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 I see you over there. Well, punch card was something like you do something, and when the person get next to you, punch card, he punch you and run, and then you got to try to catch him to give it back to him or whatever the case may be. So that was another game that everybody used to play as kids when they were young. So he's like, yo, remember we used to do this when we was young? Punch card? No, but really, remember when we used to do this when we was young? He just went crazy with it. It is what it is. I was like, yo, but believe it or not, we blew some tweeters and we blew some speakers and some subwoofers at Chung King, and we had to close the session out for a day and go back and do it the next day because they couldn't get an emergency crew in to come fix the ones in there because Dirty blew them out with the yell.
Wow. He blew out the speakers with the yell. That is awesome.
Yeah, I think it opened up, like, you know, the more I kind of like grew up and listened to it more thoughtfully instead of intuitively, it like opened up my idea of what can happen on a record. And I think Prince Paul's Psychoanalysis, which I've been listening to a lot recently, is like also one of those albums like, oh, like a record can be this. And I think this specific song plays with like what constitutes music, and like when is like just a sound isolated become music or noise, you know, something that's aggravating could be recognized as noise, then he like transforms it into music all of a sudden. That's pretty brilliant.
Another part of that song, which is just totally out there, is how he brings his wife. Is this the one where he brings his wife in?
Yeah.
She's like talking shit at the end.
Yeah. She's talking. Yeah. Sure. And that was actually a real thing that happened.
He calls me, he's like, yo, we're going to the studio. Like, let's go, get in the car, boom, we headed to the studio. So it's like, yeah, I gotta get in here, I gotta air this one out. I ain't got all the ideas yet. I said, well, you know, we just gonna do it like we do. He said, yo, we're gonna do it like we do. So, boom. And he's like, doom, doom, boom, going down, going down, going down. Yo. that verse he did, he been had that first verse. I'm U-N-I, the Q-U-E, the G to the O-D. See, I go by the unforgettable name of the land called Unique G. Well, my name is... It's a little bit of the old rapping style of when he said all over the world, you know, that's like from Grandmaster Flash and Furious 5 and them. So he kind of like blended that into it. My name is known all over the world to the foxy ladies and the pretty girls. I'm going down in history as the baddest brother there ever could be. Yeah, see, y'all niggas know. But then he starts getting this argument idea because his girl really came there again. His girl really came there to argue with him just to make her happy. Actually, it was his wife. Cause like she always, I'm tired of this fucking shit, Unique. That would be her shit and everything. When she would have an argument with him. So he actually made them cut on the shit and have her say it. And everything she wanted to say to him, he's like, everything that you want to say to me right now because you mad, tell it to the mic. And she said it. Oh, fuck that shit, Unique. You making me mad. I got fucking kids. I watch this and this, that. He said, somewhere over the rainbow. I fell out because she was still there. She heard how he did. She said, that's how you gonna do it? It's like you ignoring me. He said, that's the whole idea of the song. She was mad. She left the studio mad. Because from them arguing, he made this masterpiece. Again, it was a spare the moment thing. It wasn't something that was thought out. It was just the people was there a lot of songs that we did came from people that needed to be there at the time. When we did the Brooklyn Zoo, a couple of them happened to come in and then we called the rest in. And that's how the Brooklyn Zoo thing started when Dirty put the beat up. He already got the beats from RZA. RZA was sending the beats to Chung King. Before we get there, the beats will already be there. So I know him and RZA had to have coincide conversations with each other because by the time we got there, the tracks would already be at the studio. But that going down moment, man, bro, that was just basically, she came in to curse him out, I guess, about something and came to pick up some money. And then she wanted to argue about some shit. And he was like, listen, man, this shit costing me money, this and that. And you want to talk this and that and that. And Jack was like, yo, so what are we doing? And then he said, hold on, hold that thought. And went and told her to say everything she wanted to say to him in the mic. And we recorded it and threw him in there with that shit. I went and mixed it. And he left the studio. That was it. Done. Another song done.
While Dirty's wife is screaming at him, he suddenly breaks into somewhere over the rainbow. Another completely random turn that you're not expecting.
Yeah.
So this song is just like serious head damage.
He breaks into so many like other people's random songs all throughout this album from all kind of genres too. Like it's all across the board.
Yeah, it reminds me of Quelle Chris. I forget. I think when he was on the Cypher, he talked about having like all rappers have rap Tourette's. Like you can pick like somebody will say something and you kind of come up with a verse. Like it triggers some other, this database of like all the rhymes that you have in your head of all the other MCs. And I kind of feel like that's what Old Dirty had with like these like soul songs and love songs and standards and theme songs. Like they're just like he just like his wife's yelling at him and he just like it triggers like I'm gonna go over the rainbow instead. Like that's where I'd rather be.
Man. And like you know how the internet has that saying right now where something lives in your head rent free. When ODB is like, who wanna be an MC? Like that just sticks in my head randomly forever. I don't even have to be thinking about Old Dirty Bastard, and that line just pops up in my head. And the way he says it specifically, it's just so memorable.
Oh, and I just want to say I have a quote in my book where RZA says that Dirty was able to bring his childhood to his adulthood and share that with the world. That's basically what the song is,
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that encompasses a lot of just what makes that intro special and the album in general, just like the carefreeness and the ridiculousness and the just like courage to be so absurd. But we got Snakes up next.
Better than you and me. Niggas coming through the trees like a salamander, biting like a piranha. But I'm biting your back like a Black Panther. The style I'm amping the. Fuck my name, who I be. Fuck the game, it's all about the money. The time to get high with the meth. Then I turn to the killer priest. When there come 12 o'clock, I turn into the demon beast. Yo.
Yo, fuck that shit. Yo, show these motherfuckers what time it is. Who's the baddest? Who's the baddest?
Now number 2, practice the snake style. He was known as the snake spirit.
Lyrics never rated, 12 days penetrated. When I come with the roughness, man niggas try to rush this. Slip into my elements, there's ways in the helmets. When I try to stay spit, it's your cool graphics.
Yeah, I let the song play a little longer to include that Buddha monk verse because it was actually for the first time today. I was like, wow, that is a pretty interesting verse and style, and I realized I never really followed Buddha monk's music, and so I checked out his first album. I just want people to know, like, that album, what's it called? It's called The Prophecy. Really worth checking out, and I guess he has a couple others that I plan to check out. I don't know if any of you guys have listened to that, but it really I feel like it follows in the spirit of Old Dirty Bastard in that kind of like wild bellowing man style, So yeah, I just recommend that.
A lot of it, I was inspired of the way Dirty rapped in the first place. So he kind of gave me my style a little bit because we was always together and doing stuff. But also, I helped him create a lot of shit too in his style because we were together all the time and doing his projects. Even when he got signed to Rockefeller, they tried to take him in first and do stuff with him. And then they wound up have to call me to come in. If you see the interview where, he was doing this and that and sound like 50, that shit was all right. But now we're trying to get him back to being dirty. And that's when you see me arguing with him that they don't want to see 50 Cent. They want to see ODB. You understand what I'm saying? So I wasn't trying to diss 50 Cent or nothing. Shout out to the 50. I love that. Like, that's where my mind is at these days because he's like one of the craziest entertainers to me. Whether people know it or not. I know stories about him that other people don't know. But anyway, getting back to that situation, when I was doing the Prophecy album, basically, I would think, like, what would Dirty do if he was putting this together? And a lot of the stuff, like the arguments and the little things that you heard, WBZU and me freestyling and and I start doing all of that. But that was me feeling that Dirty was right there with me. And he's like, yeah, nigga, get it. That's what I'm talking about. But believe it or not, him and RZA was never in the studio for my album.
Right.
My whole entire album was me and my whole team, the Zoo Ninjas and the Manchus. And also Jack Hirsch, who did Dirty's album and a couple of other the Wu-Tang members' albums, he also did my whole entire album. Mm. He helped me mix my whole album. When I was doing that album, Dirty was in me without him even being it. It's when he heard it, it shocked him. It was like, oh shit, like, yo, you did that? And that's when Dirty and RZA got interested and they wanted to get, my label wanted to get Dirty to do the song with me, Gots Like Come On Through. But here I am, I'm working on this man's album every day, doing everything. And they charged me for him to be on my album. And then they charged me for him to be in the video. And I could not believe that Dirty let that shit happen.
Yeah, that sucks.
But it was their way of business. I wanted my shit to do what it do. It did what it did, and it's still doing. So I can't be all mad about it. But I just felt like in all's fair, love and war, I'm your brother. I'm here for you every day, day and night. I'm losing sleep, losing relationships, and sitting here helping you to put this album together. And that's the thanks that I get. You understand what I'm saying? And I think, and then on top of that, when it was time for me to get my credit off the albums that I did for Dirty, I produced stuff on Dirty's album and produced things and on Nigga Please, and they gave RZA 25% of the credit off both my things, talking about he moved the vocal. That don't mean he produced the track. A vocal don't have nothing to do with producing my music. I produced that on my machine. He had nothing to do with it. And y'all gave him 20, they gave it to him, put the album out, and didn't even want to sit with me to even try to tell me that 25% of the money that went to him was my money. Y'all got to give me back my money. He didn't produce shit, but that's just the way the game goes sometimes, bro.
Yeah, it's a lot of unfairness, it sounds like, in the industry.
Yeah. I didn't look at it like I was going to be mad and be revengeful. I still was loyal. People would take shit from him often, and I wouldn't touch none of his stuff. I would be the person making sure nobody did take his stuff. Like, he would give me all the money and go chill with chicks and do whatever he want to do, and I'm stuck in a hotel with all the equipment and the money. Dirty motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? But it's just dirty. Yo, this is dirty and it's stinking, nigga. Accept it or leave me alone.
Yeah, I get the idea. It's kind of hard to stay mad at ODB, huh?
No, because in retrospect to all of that, no matter how bad that shit seemed like that I said and all that, 2 days later, Dirty will come to my house and say, yo, here's $10,000. I'm like, what's that for? Something just told me to just bring you this money. Here's $5,000. Here's $2,000. You know, he would just drop money on me.
It's nice to hear that, you know, as distracted as he may have been by fame and women or whatever, that it sounds like he really did value you in the end. You know, he kept, you know, coming back and making sure that, you know, you two were good. You know, that's cool to hear.
We was more than good. Let me explain something to you. I know I could have got much more out of this, but I just loved seeing an artist do what he do, and the people love him for what he do. At the end of the day, I did it because I love it. I love music, and I wanted music to continue to be a thing that people can enjoy, and Dirty gave it to people. So let's just leave it like that and let everybody know in our own way when they see us like, yo, you had a lot to do with Dirty's career, of course. But, you know, either nearly here or there, I'm just happy that I was a part of him, period. That was a blessing for me. It made me who I am today.
But yeah, the song in general, just like a great example of just wildness and the way they capture it all on tape. These things you wouldn't think to include in the song at all, but it just works. All these layers of the screaming and then just the one part where he's like, he like swallows his words, but it just sounds so like, I don't know, something sounds great about it. So yeah, it's like a real testament to RZA or whoever was behind the production to leave all those little mistakes and keep it rough around the edges like that.
Just one thing I wanted to mention about the production on this track was this is one of the first tracks where we see RZA take a vocal hook and he speeds it up to fit the tempo of the track, making it into that chipmunk voice. This is one of the first examples of the chipmunk voice that Kanye West and Just Blaze jumped on that bandwagon. So RZA took the vocal hook from a Joe Tech song, I'll Never Do You Wrong.
I looked for that sample forever, and it took me a long time to find it because I thought it was some female R&B singers.
Exactly. You thought it was a woman, right? Yeah, but it's Joe Tex sped up.
Yeah, forever I thought it was a woman, and then when I found the Joe Tex, I was like, oh shit! Like, and that, yeah, like you say, that was before it became a trend to, like, you know, pitch shift your samples like that.
RZA started that trend. RZA started that trend on this album, and there's a couple more like that on here.
Yeah, I never really put it together until I heard Kanye mention it in the interview that that's where he got that idea from. I was like, damn, yeah, RZA has been doing that since like 93, 94, you know?
I really like how it works in this song too. Like the beat itself has just this, you know, dark dramatic vibe. And then when that little vocal hook comes in, it gives it this this pretty lightness that really is like a strange balance to it all.
Yeah, even though it's kind of sinister in its own right, you know, because it's like they build up that Five Deadly Venom sample at the very beginning, talking about the snake style, and then you get into one of the actual members of the crew talking about serpents. You know, they like snakes is out there, serpents will bite, lay outside, and then that vocal sample comes in, and it's just like these ghosts like warning you, like, you know, keep your head straight. You know, it's. Yeah, y'all basically hit all the bases of why I picked this song. I love this song. This is probably one of my 2 favorite songs on this album.
Yeah, it does seem like like what Jonas said, the light and the dark shows up a lot on the beats and also the delivery. Like even like the shimmy shimmy ya, like the piano, the din 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 din, and then like the how like intense that bass is. Like there's this like heaviness and lightness, light and dark dichotomy that happens a lot. And his aggressiveness, and then his playfulness and his style. So there's a lot of contrast kind of conflated into one zone.
This is Brooklyn Zoo 2, Tiger Crane.
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Yeah. No, yo, check this out. Check the joint. This is strictly for the radio. Yo, I just want all y'all to know the reason why I curse because my mama and my daddy, they grew up cursing. So please respect my style. Please. I'll grab the mic and I will damage you. Cause the whole stamina. Oh shit. I'll grab the mic and I will damage you. Cause the whole stamina. Here comes the medical examiner. One verse, then you out of the count. Bring the ammonia, make sure he's stiff. Lot of man. Yo, Jordy. Yeah. Come on. I'll grab the mic and I will damage you. Cause the whole stamina.
Yeah, I guess I chose that just because the intro is just full of just hilarious weirdness, and then
all types of shit.
Yeah, and I just love how of course he restarts his verse twice, and they just leave that in there, which I think a couple people have done since then, just because you'd never heard that before this though, and it sounds cool. Like you'd never heard it, but you wouldn't think to do that in a song, but it somehow works, right?
Yeah, I think like the more contemporary versions of that to me always seemed forced. Like it just like it's contrived, like you're trying to do something, and then this just seemed natural. Like it just seemed like there was just no boundary between, the verse, a mistake, an ad lib, and improvisation. Like it's all kind of moving in as one thing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, this whole album is just like it's all between the lines. It's not about what's on beat. It's about what's between the beats or what's between the verses. So there's so much complexity in that. It's just like there's simplicity and complexity at the same time. Just like you were saying, Zach, the lightness and the darkness. There's so many dichotomies like that on this album. And I think that's what really makes it so much more than the sum of its parts, and an album that you can just listen to over and over and over again. And every time you're picking up something new every time.
Yeah, word. Also loved how like with this joint and stuff though, you had like Dirty just like doing this thing, and then Ghostface just came through and spazzed out. Then as soon as Ghostface's verse just like finishes off, it almost just goes like a random medley of all the different songs that like you just heard before. Like, you know what I mean? That like it just goes from Ghost verse to like Damage, and then another song that a tiny piece of Brooklyn Zoo like plays, and like the Sweet Sugar Pie. Then it's just jumping in between songs, but it's all on one song. And then after that, it just like fades out, and then it just goes to him like I think about a minute just from like a live show, just hyping up a crowd for like a live show. It's just right before the next track just jumps on, and like I'm saying, which is just crazy, right now. I mean.
Yeah, it's a 7-minute, 20-second song. And like you said, there's like a recap. Halfway through the song, it's like the needle skips and then the original beat returns with Dirty ad-libbing. and chanting the hook to Brooklyn Zoo. But it makes complete sense because the next song is he's introducing his crew, Brooklyn Zoo, for Protect Your Neck 2, the Zoo, which is the big posse cut, right? Featuring Brooklyn Zoo and Sons of Man. So it just makes perfect sense in a way, too.
All right, which brings us to Protect Your Neck 2.
Whether you from Brooklyn, whether you from Manhattan, you from Queens, nigga, I don't give a fuck where you be, motherfucker, where you reside, motherfucker, how you live, how you see, short to stack outs, this one's the blackout, 357 to your mouth. Can you hear me? Rawness I'm inflicting, it's that G-type slang that makes this real sickening. Ignite the styles, I got my hand.
Just an amazing little example of him going from like this rant straight into the verse, like right on beat. Like it's almost like maybe less of this is like cut and pasted than we really think it is, you know?
Yeah, he's like, his voice is like, it's pushed to the limit. Like you can just hear, and then he just like snaps like right back into the verse. It's just insane.
This track was probably like my favorite personal performance from Dirty on the album and shit though. Like, especially when like he hits that like introducing ODB Bastard, MC Killer, Money Maker, Brooklyn, Challenge Style, down like town. It's just like just listening to it, it just felt like a fucking roller coaster and shit though, know what I mean? Because everyone that was on that track was really just swinging for the defenses and shit though, know what I'm saying? And then but then Dirty just came through and his shit was just like, nah, I mean, it was just like a force of nature and shit, you know what I'm saying? What?
They're yelling at the beginning, fuck you, and all that. Me and Ray Song was really arguing, and Dirty turned around to the guy and told him, push the button, record everything, record. And then while we were arguing and like in each other's face to the point it seemed like we were getting ready to fight, he just got on like, see, I want all y'all motherfuckers to know how the shit is real. And we turned around and looked at him like, yo, we arguing and you gonna start rapping? And the fight stopped. And and then you just hear, yeah. And you hear Ray Song like right next to him talking shit, Brooklyn Zoo, and this and that and that. And yo, bro, we were really getting ready to fight and it turned into a hit.
Wow.
Shit like that. That was Dirty. Like, what's amazing about Dirty wasn't just him being dirty. He knew a person could be pulling out a gun and he could talk a motherfucker down to putting the gun down and say, you right, Dirty. I'm sorry, man. You know, that was just him. And that's what he did in his music. He took all of that and he did the same thing in his music. We were getting ready to fight and he turned it into a project while we cursing in the back. He recorded it. I lost my mind. And that's when I know anything is allowed when you're in here recording that can be a part of a song. Because when we went back inside to hear it, it was like, holy shit, this shit is crazy. I was proud that day. I was proud, but I was still mad. I still wanted to kick Ray Song's ass though, but I was proud, you know? And I understood why he did it. And he's like, yo, later on, he came and talked to me after that. He said, I know you could have beat the shit out of my cousin, and I know he was wrong and all that shit. But you see how with the power of music and the power of love, I diffused the shit without even have to talk to both of y'all. He said, when you can do that, you're entertaining the world.
That is an amazing story. That is gold.
When he said, I want all y'all motherfuckers to know that this shit is real. And he's like, oh, Rusty. All of that was while we were arguing. And then you heard Ray Song after he got our attention. Ray Song says, Brooklyn Zoo. And I'm like, chooka, 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 chooka. And I'm doing stuff like that. And like, yeah. Like we went from arguing to the mic to make that happen. And then I'm first one to rap, sort your stacks out. This one's the blackout. No, Dirty said, sort your stacks out. This one's the blackout. 357 to your mouth. And I said, Dirty, can you hear me? Rawness I'm inflicting. It's that G-type slang that makes this real sickening. Ignite the styles. I got my hand on the trigger. Start from the smallest and hits the bigger nigga. That was me.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I started rhyming. He moved over and took the headphones and put it on me as I was saying my rhyme. We didn't even have time to put our headphones on. And then 60 Second Assassin and Prodigal Son and Killer Priest walked in. And so we dropped their verses on it. And then Shorty Shitstain and Murdoch was already there, and Ray Song. So we was gonna do this Brooklyn Zoo shit, but as we already are gonna get it started, they walking in and he's just popping everybody where they need to be as they come in. He's making niggas go in like, yo, it's your time to do this. And then when the pause came in before he got the other niggas to rhyme and 60 second in is it, and he says, yo, close the door. That was me. I broke the door to the studio because I went and put a mic outside and he said, slam the door. When I slammed it, the whole frame broke off and fell. The door fell off. The emergency fire exit door to the studio fell off because I slammed it so hard, the whole shit fell off and hit the mic. So this, again, when you ask questions like that, do mistake, trial, and error, this is how this album was being put together in the spare of a moment. It was like, bow, 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 bow. RZA had already had all that. RZA did all that. All that was done by RZA. I didn't even have knowledge of it. RZA, the track was there and we just walked in and Dirty had put it up, and that's when we all started arguing about it. And once he got all the vocals in, and then he started making the beat change up to do, because like one thing about RZA that you can learn, RZA will take 20 sounds and put it in one track. So then you go there and you'll take out what you want the track to sound like, and that's what Dirty would do. And then there were certain parts Dirty would put in, because he watched RZA do it, put certain shit in certain tracks and switch it up, like bring the motherfucking ruckus and stuff like that when you have pauses or drops and he do a certain thing. So when we got there that day, that particular song, Dirty actually used his fingers to put everybody where they need to be and do the drops and stuff like that.
He's like the MC conductor on this track, because there's 7 MCs, and like you say, all of them kill it. But Dirty just pops up here, then he just like pops up over here, and he's just like, he's like the conductor, you know? He's like,
word.
He's like in control of the chaos. That's, to me, that's what this whole album is. It's just like watching Dirty just ride the lightning, man. He's just like, you know, who can do that? You know, who can ride the lightning? He can, man.
Word, definitely, word.
I feel like this is Old Dirty's like arena. This is like the perfect venue for his expression. And I feel like we see him on his guest spots or his other album, but it's not the same as this. Like, this is the moment when it's just like perfectly captured. Like you were saying, he's riding the lightning. Like, it's just, everything came together just right so we can see the totality of what he's about. And I think that's hard to do, like as an artist, like working through, you know, a lot of years. It's like it comes and goes. Sometimes you don't have control over it. And I think, yeah, this is one of those moments where it just happened. It's perfect.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of that credit should be given to RZA for, you know, being able to capture all of that and present it in this way. I feel like it would be a tough job.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that what Skiz was saying earlier about them sharing rhymes, and Tokyo was talking about that too. Like I didn't pick up on that, but it seems like this could only happen with a very intimate relationship between the producer and the MC. You know, like most producers is like they kind of got their own expression and the MC has their own expression, and it's like they complement each other, but this is like a total synthesis where I think RZA, you know, it seems like he was very charitable and let him do his thing and knew that he didn't need to step in as much, and knew how to, like, I don't know, knew how to structure it in ways that didn't feel constraining to his expression. Yeah, and I think, yeah, it's like that family vibe. I mean, it's like, you know, to have your wife reenact an argument like that, you can only do that with somebody that's close to you, or else it's gonna come off the wrong way. So it seems like a lot of trust happened.
Yeah, and imagine calling the track "Protect Your Neck" too. You know, "Protect Your Neck" was their song that blew it up, right? That was the first song. Imagine calling the song "Protect Your Neck" too. I think this a worthy sequel to it, you know, because like you got 7 MCs, and we didn't know any of these guys before. This is the first time we're hearing all these guys, and just like the names of some of these guys, too. 60-second assassin, damn, that is one of the fucking best names in rap. 60-second assassin. This guy can murder you lyrically in under a minute. You know, it's like
That was an old kung fu flick, I think. Like one of those Shaw Brothers style flicks.
I just think it's interesting also to think about how studio time at this point was super expensive. So to let ODB in there just be experimenting, you know, that shows like, you know, a special approach that the producer had to take to allow this album to be made.
I think you guys are giving RZA. Well, this is in my research. I think that ODB really guided a lot of this album himself, because aside from just getting the beats from RZA, it seems to me that RZA kind of let him handle it, you know, and. I've seen it. I've seen interviews with Dante Ross, and Dante Ross says that he kind of mixed the album, which I you know I don't take that fully, but maybe he did some of it. But I think Dirty really had the command spot in putting this whole album together, you know.
Yeah, you could be right.
And he's totally capable of it too. He's totally capable of it too. You can see he knows exactly what he's doing. So I would give Dirty the lion's share credit for putting this album together. RZA definitely gets the credit for the most of the production and everything like that. But as far as like putting it together and stuff like that, I would hand that more to Dirty. I would give Dirty the benefit of that, you know.
So another thing in the group discussion that we were kind of going back and forth about, and of course this was before I read your book, so now I have some more perspective on it, but we were like, well, how much was RZA masterminding stuff versus how much was ODB masterminding? And then of course I realize now, like, how much was it you know, directing things? So like if you could kind of summarize like who was really in the director's seat, what were the different roles that the different people were playing in the studio for this album to come together?
A lot of times RZA and Dirty would have calls on the phone. The beats would be at the studio already. I guess RZA, they had services come pick the stuff up, and when I get to the studio, these reels are already there, and Dirty is telling him or telling me to tell him what reel to put on first and start getting it together before we get there. Sometimes we would have 4 or 5 days lockout, 24-hour lockout, 17 hours lockout, a whole week to 2 weeks in a lockout. I would probably come out of the studio maybe once out of that lockout, go wash my ass, make sure my girl and my kids and them got food and money, and I'm back at the studio. You know what I'm saying? RZA wasn't in the studio with us a lot. On Dirty's album, as a matter of fact, Dirty was there, but he wasn't there. I would be there a lot doing everything while Dirty was at either a hotel fucking or somewhere off doing something else. And then there would be times he would just come and drop money off to me and then bounce. You know what I'm saying? And then he'll call me on the phone, yo, so let me hear it. And then I got to cut my phone on, make sure I got the best phone. So I got to buy the best phone, because if I buy the fucked up phone, yo, I can't hear it. Go buy a phone. Like, he'll make you go buy a new phone that works so he can hear his shit. And I would play stuff on. Yeah, so that sounded good. All right, so do that, add this and that to it, and then go to the next track and tell me what you think. And then, Buddha, whatever you need, whatever needs to be done, I need you to just, make it feel warm, make it feel right. And after Jack pretty much know what kind of stuff he liked on his vocals, like the BBE and all of the other little programs that we were using to make Dirty's vocals sound right, Dirty really didn't have to be there because I have an ear for mixing, and he knew that's what he wanted me there for. He wanted me to help mix his album. He also wanted me to help get stuff together. So sometimes when he came in, all he had to do, I don't like that rhyme. Let me hold that rhyme, but let me do this. He'll come in and do a couple of rhymes, and then he'll stay. He'll stay once he's in there, and then he'll leave. And then he'll be like, okay, so Buddha, you got these other tracks. Tell me what you think. Okay, call your cousin Marcus up. Y'all produced the remix. Don't you know? Me and my cousin Marcus, we did that in the studio. He gave us the studio for like 3 days to do it. We did it in one day, saving money, produced it. And then he came in with a girl and had the girl say something. Sex is what everybody needs, everybody wants, everybody loves. And then once he did everything, he left. Now I'm back to mixing. So, and then of course, everything has to go through RZA. So I'm pretty sure after, like we did all of this work, he would listen. One time before RZA first met me, he's like, who that? And he's like, that's my partner. He's gonna be with me. He's gonna do everything with me. At that moment, I didn't even say yes to him. He just already decided that I was gonna be with him and be with Wu-Tang. But at this moment, I didn't even think I should say yeah. I just said, fuck it, I'm gonna roll with it. I thought it was gonna be a flim flam, but he wound up coming to get me all the time. I had problems and beef. I was whooping niggas' ass. He came and took me from my hood and told me to stay with him until he got me another crib somewhere else, so I could be safe and be on the road and do shit with him. He didn't have to do that. He was taking care of him and his family. They were living in Harlem in a house, all in the crib together with bunk beds and shit like that. He went and used his money that he could have saved and got some shit for them and gave me money so I could get a crib and take my kids and live somewhere so we could be safe and keep doing this music shit. And it's strange because at first, RZA was very critique about people touching his production, but Dirty told him I was going to be there and I'm going to be his right-hand man and do everything with him. RZA didn't have a problem with people when that, like, even when we started doing the Brooklyn Zoo album, 12 O'Clock called him for some beats for our album. He was like, I don't want nobody touching my stuff but Buddha Monk, because he know I would get the job done and I'm not going to let people play with his production too much. And so that was it. And we wound up, and most of the time the tracks get done. I guess him and RZA probably would sit in a room later on and listen to him. And then next thing you know, it comes 6 more tracks. And I'm like, what we doing with that? We're just gonna keep going. I'm like, Dirty, we trying to finish the album. Don't worry about it. Just I'm gonna keep coming in, dropping stuff, record. You figure out what we do.
I love hearing that Dirty had so much time and energy really invested in the album and cared a lot about it, because you get the idea sometimes through documentaries or whatever that his main priority was just having fun and the music was just secondary and he needed other people to kind of make it come together. But it's nice to hear that he really had that much invested in it.
Dirty wasn't a clown nigga. One thing, let me say it, because I don't know where people getting this shit from. Like, you hear funny shit that he did, like, yo, like at the awards and all that. Okay, cool. But Dirty was never a clown. If Dirty wasn't in the studio, he was home teaching his kids. If he wasn't home teaching his kids, he could be with a shorty, but he would still be teaching the shorty even if he was with her. If he was with me and he stole the bus at like one of the shows one time, RZA and all of them must have made him mad or something, whatever the case may be. We come out, Mook went inside to go get everybody because they was taking long. Dirty said, Buddha, get on this little, they had the little buses. Dirty got on the bus, he pulled the thing up, pulled the door and drove off. We left Wu-Tang in Jersey. Dirty done took the bus and building with me with mathematics and talking about how he wants things to be with music, how long we should be doing it. Dirty wanted to rap until we was like 74. That's what he told me. So we was here I am, I'm with one of the greatest entertainers of all times, and I'm sitting behind him on this bus, this yellow bus in the seat. He's driving and talking to me the whole time and building to me and telling me why he did it and what he's looking for and what they don't understand and how many times they have done shit that pissed him off. So, it's not like he's doing it to get back at him because he loves his niggas and better not nobody mess with them because he'll be down with them. But there's a science to him, and like sometimes he has to let everybody know, yo, I'm not just part of this group. I'm like a big success of this group too as well. And I'm not gonna let y'all play me or put me or demeanor me in some kind of way to look like the joke class clown of Wu-Tang. And that's kind of the way I saw the show that they had on Hulu. It made me feel like Dirty wasn't a real motherfucker and he wasn't about getting money and this and that. Because some parts that they left out, it's not being shown in there. Dirty wasn't like that, bro. And I didn't like it. I mean, maybe they remembered it like that a little bit, but that's not what I remember.
Yeah, I think this is definitely an important side to make people realize, because, yeah, people just want to frame him as like a cartoon or something.
Nah, he was concerned about everything. He was concerned about his life. He was concerned about his kid's life. He was concerned about where he wanted to go in music. He didn't want to be labeled just like having music. Like, he loves the sound of wu-tang, but he wanted to be big. Dirty was well educated, and he also knew when there was a time to play and there's a time to be serious and get money, and on top of that, have people respect him in this industry. When he started turning over turntables and tearing up fucking clubs, now you know that's the Dirty you don't want to meet. So let me be happy, enjoy my music, come to my shows, give me my money and let me go, and we ain't got to worry about none of this shit. But then you got to remember, he also rolling with a bunch of guys in Wu-Tang, and they got problems with niggas and shit. This guy. So now I got to show people who I really am. But here's the funny thing. People think that about Dirty. Usually when the fight took place, the first one be like, get him! Be Dirty yelling just like that. And all of a sudden we go on the wall. You know, him and Ghost, soon as Dirty say, fuck that, y'all niggas trying to play, get him, everybody get him. And next thing you know, him and Ghost and all of us, we up in there. Tore up, we done tore up some armories and everything, bro. Just like that, in a matter of seconds. You understand what I'm saying? And that's why everybody started saying, yo, Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with. You know what I'm saying? And we wanted, the song was made, it wasn't made to be a joke. It wasn't made for people to just understand. No, like on the real, the components to make this group, there's a lot of niggas in this group could fuck niggas up and got niggas who could fuck niggas up. But we not about that. But we just want y'all to know, enjoy our music, don't fuck with us. So a lot of things happen for different reasons, bro. And people, they try to overlook it and don't tell the truth about it, or don't know it, because some people don't really get the people who really know the stories to tell it. So a lot of shit get misconstrued as time and time go on.
Yeah, it's important to hear that he had a certain amount of self-respect and knew his value and demanded, that people treat him properly.
Because this took 2 years to make, and at the time Riz is busy with the business. He's busy getting these guys solo deals. He's busy with Meth's album. These guys are on tour. There was a lot of chaos going on, and 2 years is a long time to make an album, man. That's a hell of a long time, who knows how much that costs to make, or the studio time.
Yeah, ODB does have assistant engineering credit and a couple of co-production credits, and I think maybe even a mixing credit if I'm remembering correctly, but I'm not sure about that one.
No, he mixed it on the album cover. It says mixed by the RZA, Buddha Monk, and Old Dirty Bastard.
I could tell you a quick story that it will bug your mind out. His engineering in this story, and this thing was crazy. There was one song that we had, and we were recording it. We was trying to do whatever we had to do. We had to get this music done and everything. And while Dirty is trying to do his thing, he's like, yo, you hear that? I'm like, yo, you bugging. This song is mixed. I don't hear a goddamn thing. What's wrong with you, man? Like yo, Dirty. I hope you wasn't getting fucked up and just trying to come in here and fuck with me and do this song all over, because after all this hard work. So he's like, yo, you don't hear that? I'm like, no. So this nigga start pushing buttons. He pushing this button. He pushed the next button. Push the next button. Yo, there's some shit in there that I guarantee you, no matter how loud this song was or how this beat was going, me and Jack, we totally skipped it. We never heard it. We didn't know it was there. And he came in and found it. But I was like, yo, but you listen to the song, you love it. You're like, why don't you leave it? They said, nah, I can hear something when the song is full. That's doing effect to my fucking song. So when he took it out, we didn't even notice it. And then we realized the song, when he put it back in and played it for us, the song became different, like he said. So I was like, for the first time ever, maybe my ears were burned, because you got to remember, here I am, I'm in this studio for 7 to 10 days without no being home, eating, seeing my family. I'm taking showers at the studio, shit like that. So, you know, my ears probably was burning. It just was it was like 2 minor mishaps that I missed. But he knew what he wanted. He knew what he wanted. He knew how shit was supposed to sound. And even though I did mix a lot of things, sometimes he'll still come in and tweak, or he'll sit there for another 7 hours and hope to do something else. And then he'll add something. If he didn't like it, we'll take it out. But what was already snapshot and mixed, we'll keep it, but he'll try to add something. And if it didn't feel right, like, that's too much, Dirty. Now you're doing too much. All right, let's take it out. He said, we're doing too much, take it off. Or he would tell me, nah, I'm keeping that. I'm like, all right.
All right. Well, we got Cutting Heads featuring RZA.
Isn't that powerful? Isn't that powerful? Isn't that
Here it is.
Where's it at?
In the back.
Got a stack.
The dirty bastard.
Yo, you bastard, flip the fat track.
Here I go. Whether friend, whether foe, let them know that I flow over the rainbow.
Hit the deck.
Oh, yeah. Plow, feel the tech, taking heads, taking X.
What the fuck they expect?
I don't know.
I don't care.
I won't fold.
I won't stare at a hole unless I know that I'm going to the mo.
To the tail.
Cause I'm mousy, my technique is drowsy. Some try to foul me.
I'm saying that we're lousy.
But I'm a tyrant, defiant, walking New York giant.
President of the
But
woo.
I'm also a client.
It's the woo what?
You do what? You do what? Who? What? I don't give a flying fuck.
I always loved that line, like president of the woo, but I'm also a client. That was always my shit. Word.
Like Cy Sperling, the hair club for men. That's where that came from.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a Thelonious Monk piano riff.
Yeah.
And the break is obviously substitution, synthetic substitution, Melvin Bliss.
Right.
And I think that jam is from '92. If I'm not mistaken, it's like a demo.
Where?
Yeah.
That's why I picked this one, because this is like the defining version of that old stuff that RZA and Dirty and Jizza were working on. To me, like, out of everything on this album, this has the most of that pre-woo energy to it.
Oh, what? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, what?
Yeah, I know that I was attracted to that too. Like, it felt like the whole album is kind of dusted and raw sounding, but this is like distinctly more like muted and like hissed out than the rest of the album. And I think it has that like a demented take on the old school routine. That's why I was drawn to it. And it's like, you know, taking something standard and traditional and just like dusting it out and making it their own. And I think, again, like trying to, you know, go back to what I was saying earlier, it's like it didn't hit as all together. Like it was too familiar, too much in line with other routines and styles of that time, and how now they're able to bring it back and make it their own in this context. And it just, now is when it hits right.
It also tripped me out how like lo-fi this particular song's production was in comparison to the rest of the songs on the album. Like, it's noticeably got that kind of tape sound to it.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, word.
Yeah, this was done on a Yamaha 4-track, so that's why it sounds like that.
Wow.
Makes 100% sense.
Okay, word.
All right. Well, we're going long, but we're winding down. This is the last track on the album, Harlem World.
And I saw a wu-tang show, I always wanted to get with the band. But niggas was singing their own songs, being in their own worlds. So I guess the terminology, the psychology, you still expect me to accept. Do what I say off the TDK with the button on record and the other on. Thus I press pause for a serious course to respect an intellect with this gratifying.
Very interesting style. Very different.
Yeah, I always dug how this one really sounds like stream of consciousness in terms of the way he's putting the lyrics together and rapping. And then it's got like kind of a dub plate-ish production to it because like his lyrics are so open. They like really reverb up the vocals and different points. And yeah, this one always feels like you're in his head when he's on like a nostalgia trip to me. When he's just kind of talking about back in the day and talking about what he's going through now. And it took me a while to like dig this song, but it became like probably my other favorite song off this album over time. I just really love the way it closes out the album. Even though it was a bonus track, it wasn't even on like the tape or anything like that.
Yeah, that tripped me out. I didn't know it existed for a long time because I just had the tape, and then I distinctly remember being like the last man standing at a party and just putting this on. I found the CD and just like sitting on the couch, like listening to the whole thing, and then this comes on, and I thought it was like hallucinating. It's like, what the fuck is this? Like, I've been listening to this album for years, and like I never heard this. It's like, yeah, that was.
So you guys had the tape? You guys had the cassette?
I had the tape, yeah.
See, because I had the CD, and the CD has 2 bonus tracks. It's got Dirty Dancing. You know Dirty Dancing, that track?
Yeah, that's right before it.
Okay. Yeah, that's a bonus track on the CD.
That was from the Jerky Boys soundtrack. Yeah, that was a song that Method Man had on the Jerky Boys soundtrack, and they ended up putting it on this album. And then Harlem World was like the second bonus track, but fuck it, man. I just call it the closer, you know, because I ended up listening to the CD mostly. So I got used to it being at the end.
And I don't think that guy, the producer, Big Door, I haven't seen him do anything else other than that track, you know.
Yeah, I don't know what he's done.
Yeah, there's actually like an interview with dude where he tells the story about how the track just came to be and shit though, and like it was kind of interesting and shit though too, because he was someone that was up in the clothes store, and then Dirty just happened just to walk in there. Then he had the beat CD or some shit though. Then he played that. Then he said like Dirty made him keep on rewinding like that beat, and he just kept on freestyling to it and stuff though. Then he said like, "Yo, come down to the studio and let's get this and shit." You know what I mean?
Oh wow!
But the interview's up on the internet though. You said, "What?"
Nice.
Speaking of bonus tracks, there's a 25th anniversary version of this album that I just heard this week, which has a couple of bonus tracks that sound like they're from that era. Definitely worth checking out, I'd say.
What with that joint would like Give It To You Raw?
They got one called Old Dirty's Back, and then Don't You Know 2, and yeah, Give It To You Raw, which I guess that was out on a 12-inch B-side or something.
Yeah,
right?
that was like the Brooklyn Zoo like extra cut or something. I can't remember what single it was on.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually those songs that you just named that are on the 25th anniversary one are on this random single I found from back in the day. It's got like all the like Japanese text on the credits and stuff.
Nice.
But yeah, those are the songs that are on there.
Nice word. Dope.
Awesome.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, good talk. Any final thoughts on the Return to the 36 Chambers?
Wu-tang is for the children, son. What, I mean?
Man, this is one of the most amazingly sequenced albums ever. I love the way this album is put together.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the most amazing albums in hip hop, period. I don't think there's many albums that go out there like this one, you know?
Yeah.
Only thing I can think of that even comes remotely close, and it's still not even quite there, is De La Soul Is Dead, just because they 100% were doing their own thing. But it's not even like as close to pushing the stylistic boundaries as Old Dirty was.
Nothing could prepare you for what this album was. And like, if I had to describe this album in one word, the one word that just comes to my mind is just like freedom. Because like, it was like, well, this is like a bit of a tangent, but like I remember like I was up at the grocery store and I was paying this at the self-checkout aisle and shit. And then this motherfucker just walked up like right next to me. He had headphones on, the mask on. And this motherfucker was just rapping out some motherfucking Migos lyrics as he's paying for like his shit. Just rapping out, he's doing the dances and everything. And I just looked at this motherfucker like, this motherfucker's free. He doesn't give a fuck what, like, it's just free. And I felt like Dirty, he's really doing this on the fucking album.
And to think that it was on a major label, you know, I mean, you don't know how tightly controlled that shit was back then. I mean, the court, you know, they had, you know, luckily it was Dante Ross, because Dante and Dirty were like, you know, they were like this. So Dante pretty much let Dirty do what he wanted. But this album sold 81,000 copies in its first week, man. That's incredible, you know?
Boy, crazy, yo. And like with what you said too about being up in Brooklyn and stuff, though, I can't even imagine what that was like when this shit dropped.
Oh,
this
man.
Shit, man, yo.
We were on top of the world, man. We were just like, yes. Dirty was like the Black Messiah back then in Brooklyn, you know what I mean? And you ran into him on the street. You see him on the street everywhere, man. He would stop his car at a red light, just get out and start handing money to people, handing dollar bills to people. I mean, this guy, he was in the hood. He was all in the hood. You know, he was not like one of these rappers who moves to New Jersey and shit like that. You saw this guy regularly on the streets. And every time you see him, he's got a different car. And I was like, RZA, what's up with this guy? He was like, oh, he always just crashes his cars, man.
Man, that's crazy right there, yo. Wow.
So this guy was an original. He was an original, you know. You're never gonna find another character like this, you know.
Yeah, true that.
Rest in paradise, old dirty bastard, because man.
Yeah, true that. And what up?
He meant to keep the world amazed at his music, the creativity of the levels that you can take music. Don't let nobody tell you. If you want to say 1, 2, 3, ODB, you can leave me alone. Don't mess with me. And the beat is crazy. If you can fit that rhyme to it, do it. If that's what you heard when you was deciding to do your song, do it. Don't let nobody stop your create. Be the owner of your creativity is his message. Definitely be the creator of your creativity. And if you can't create it for yourself, don't be afraid to let others come and try to help you create. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not afraid to take a lyric from somebody. If I'm at a stumble block, it doesn't hurt to ask for help. Dirty will ask for help. He will ask somebody to help him write a song. You understand what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. It's him saying it. It sounds dope when his voice is saying it. People are buying it because he's saying it, not because who wrote it. He could say who wrote it, but still in all, he said it. And I love the way he said it. And then when you go to a show and everybody's singing it along with you, you glad you said it.
Yeah.
So in his spirit, be responsible for your own creativity. Don't let no one, get all your publishing rights and all that. And stay focused no matter what's going on in your life. Know who you are, know what your way of life is, and live by it and do right by others.
That's why they call me Osiris the Father now, because I went to the next dimension. I already mastered all the human lessons. I had to leave that alone. You know what I mean? I had to go, to the other dimension where it's all thought. We call it the land of nobody.
And fellas, my book is dropping July 6th. If I can put a little plug in for my book.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
July 6th, where can we pre-order it?
You can get it on Amazon, but if you go to my Twitter at Skiz Fernando, you can get it directly from the publisher. You don't have to go through Amazon.
Cool.
And let me tell you, this is a book that I've worked on for 27 years.
Oh, wow.
It's a very deep book, and I've interviewed every member of the clan multiple times for the book. I've interviewed family members, I've interviewed engineers, I've interviewed people who work with them. And I've used all of the publicly available, interviews on YouTube and all of that stuff. So this is really a definitive edition, and it's like 450 pages, guys. So this is like a serious read. So if you want to nerd out on Wu-Tang, man, this is it, man.
That's what Dirty is here for. Dirty here just to keep it dirty, 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 where we all come from. You know what I mean? You can't forget that and keep running up into astrology and trying to run up into to the moon and to the Mars and build these cities, you know, that already been built for trillions of years. We
All
already
day.
there.
All day, bastard.
Hey, you made it all the way to the end. I hope that means you enjoyed it. Took a goddamn lot of work, so if you did enjoy it, please tell a friend. I hope that people will watch this thing. And if you're still not satisfied after those 2.5 hours, guess what? There is much more of ODB talk to be had. We spoke amongst ourselves in the group for another half hour about ODB, and also my talk with Buddha Monk. You only heard half of that. There's a whole other 45 minutes of that. You can hear the entirety of our hour-and-a-half long conversation at patreon.com/weirdrap. For just $3, you get that. You get all the past bonus episodes of the Weird Rap Discussion Gang, all the past episodes of the Weird Rap Podcast. That includes interviews with Anti-Pop Consortium, New Kingdom, Cambada, Skiz Fernando, and more. And for just $5, you can join the Weird Rap Discussion Gang. That means you can watch us record these episodes live, and you can interact with us live via text. We'll read and respond to your texts. And I'll send you some Weird Rap stickers. That's patreon.com/weirdrap.